Hello and welcome. Apparently, they are not allowing me to do videos anymore, since I am doing the free version. So I'll just bring on my guests, starting
Oh,
with Dun Awakening and Dun Messiah.
What?
yep.
What? Wait, what? Die screaming! Die!
Anyone else gonna join us today? Because it would be funny if we had more Dune sequels.
This is, well,
Let's
that
see.
was dramatic.
I'll I'll die eventually. Don't worry.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Don't
Okay.
worry. I have a
And
few
up
things that I
next,
want to
I'm
do
gonna see the chat.
first. I got a
Hmm.
few things that I want to do first, though. So might be
Well,
a
there's no
while.
rush.
Yeah. All right. Let's start with Axula or uh, Dun Awakening.
Sure.
I should,
Yeah,
I
my
should probably tell you that I'm going to be getting myself lunch in what? Maybe not half an hour, but a little over half an hour.
Okay, in that case,
oh
we'll
yeah,
do
this is gonna
Balerion
take.
first. We'll probably do Balerion
I
first
actually
in
no.
that
Yeah,
case.
yeah, you're right. That's a good idea. Let Blaren go first. Mine might take a little while. It's a bit of a long chapter, but the flow is really excellent. I presented it before, but yeah, I would say yeah. Let Blaren go first.
Is this the one with the? Is this the one with the general who's a jerk?
No, that's the next one. I am going back to chapter 3, the initiation ceremony. I reworked it a little bit, added a few more details, took away some. I edited it up a bit, and I think it's perfect. I'm mostly here to restart the Estradia train, if you will, because I had to stop that train when I was in the crisis that I was in, and I couldn't write for a while. But
Oh,
now
okay.
that I'm writing again, I'm going to get back to the story, and I'm really looking forward to it. I have the entire thing planned out. I know exactly where it's going, and yeah, this is an excellent chapter to start with. So, yeah.
It transcends art.
I'm sorry, I didn't
So,
hear that.
sorry.
He was saying it transcends art.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
You
you
know,
could say that. I mean, I am trying to do something. I don't know if it's. I'm like positive it's been done before, but I think my utilization is unique. I'm trying to combine science fiction and horror together in really creative, clever ways. So, like, think Interstellar meets Stephen King kind of thing. That's what I'm trying to do. So,
well, let's see. What I'm doing is something totally different. First, I'm going to quickly read a bit of Juvenilia so you can see what I was doing when I was 13 or 14 years old.
oh no, no, Valerian, no.
And then I'll read a bit from a parody that I did later. So
All right.
this is an exam. I'm reading from an examination book that I scribbled on, not wrote on. Uh, Examination book. Name Beowulf Brably. Subject Turanian culture. Class 6, Section 17. Instructor Taijan Parandu Vram Rayin Ruini. And everything that's in Turanian in this has a million diacritics. Oh, and I need to read the bits from here in a higher pitched voice so that my regular voice will be when I'm commenting on it. Food. Turanians like to mix several foods together. Darwad's weird concoction is their food. They dislike spices and like juices. They are happiest with cold food. The different dishes are in a particular course are not well separated. Turanians wash thoroughly before eating, and the careful, delicate way of eating that they have would make Queen Victoria want to start all over again. Okay, skip on to fine, fine arts, painting. In Terrania, paints have been in existence for centuries. Instead of using brushes, the use sick splints of wood. Terranians don't paint so much for religious and philosophical reasons as to make an ugly picture. Pencil here taking over. Actually, a pretty, but some humor is necessary. Except it's not very funny. Okay, footnote. Avant-garde type are unpopular. In Turanian sculpture, symmetry is considered more important than naturalism. There are 27 patterns of symmetry. Which pattern you use depends on your name. Mystic stuff rules all. Iyajini Patajra. Don't ask me what that means. Okay, is that enough, or should I do a little more?
I'm sorry, I'm having a
Go
hard
for
time
it.
understanding what we're not. It's not that the writing is bad. The writing's fine. It's the what are you trying to convey?
Oh, this is a bit of fun. This is just kind of a bit of nonsense that he's come up with as far as an in-world commentary on his own, on the created in-world by the fictional story.
I mean, this is something I did when I was 13 or 14. So I'm commenting on it, but
Gotcha.
so asking what point I'm trying to make is a little bit. In Terrania,
Yeah,
costume and scenery are very important. The most trivial plays are as flamboyant as the greatest. Commedia dell'arte is used for what they say, but a general idea of what's happening and what mood they are supposed to be in the play. What? That's not a proper sentence. Singing and dancing, considerable occurs. Okay. I think that's enough of that. Let's move on to the Count of Montefato. Let's see if I can find that. Where is that in here? Oh, here we are. Okay, here we are. This is based on the Count of Monte Cristo. So if you know that, you should get an idea what's going on.
that does ring some bells. I think you've presented that a few times, right? Or not a few times. I mean, like you've presented it over the years.
I've presented it before, but not recently. This is
Okay.
because you see the thing is I haven't finished the next chapter of my real novel yet, so I'm filling in. I'm doing filling in with other stuff. Chapitre 5. Entr'acte. On returning to his companions, Samoir distributed rings to all of them, 3 for elves, 7 for dwarves, and 9 for mortal men. The contrebandier thus entered his service and became his most trusted service, with Guillaume de Ferny at their head, and he made them Chevalier de Montefato and Fantôme du Ring. Thereafter, Gamges established a splendid court on the island of Montefato. After receiving a complete makeover that rendered him both unrecognizable and incredibly good-looking, he traveled throughout Terre Moyenne, especially Le Harad, where the stars are strange and the Seraglier are stranger, and where he picked up some charming Sudron habits such as opium and slavery. He went in many guises and won renown under many names, as Frodia had foretold. He rode in the host of the Rohirrois and swashbuckled Gondor by land and by sea in the guise of Albert le Moupe. He even penetrated the forbidden city of Escargot. His friend Boutreberousse, meanwhile, had declined since the halcyon days of Le Pony Prinçant. He now let rooms in L'Auberge Abandonnée, which was located in a distinctly less fashionable part of town. And for some unknown reason, probably financial, he had married a rather sickly and avaricious lady who was even more d'un certain âge than he was. and whom he called La Carcharotte. And I should mention here that Karkaroth is the name of a werewolf in, a monster wolf anyway, in the Silmarillion. One day, he saw a horse and rider approaching from the east. Never before had he seen such an accord between horseman and mount. And had he been a travelled man, it might have reminded him of the elvish way with all good beasts. The rider, who was dressed in the grey cloak of a priest, advanced towards the door of the auberge and knocked on it. Outre Barousse opened the door somewhat diffidently. Are you Monsieur Outre Barousse? Asked the priest in a strong Lotolorian accent. I am, replied the innkeeper. Barlement Outre Barousse, at your service. Would your reverence care for some refreshment? If you have vieux vignoble, I would gladly partake, replied the abbe, and then we can resume our conversation. Oh no, it started Italian and became Russian. Anyway, the priest kept his left fist closed as if he were holding some mysterious object. But Outre Barousse durst not inquire. Are you alone? Asked the abbe, when Outre Barousse had served him. Yes, monsieur, unless you count my wife La Carcharotte, who is unwell and cannot aid me in much, save in eating. I am not rich, monsieur, but que voulez-vous? It is not enough to be honest, in order to prosper in terre moyenne. The abbe gave Outre Barousse a piercing glance and said, Sooner or later, oh, I've lost the Italian accent, but that's all right. Sooner or later, I am firmly convinced the honest man is recompensed and the wicked punished. Yeah, I'm too lazy to do the Italian accent anymore, sorry. It is your state that makes you say that, your reverence. For you abbe need no mushrooms, replied the innkeeper bitterly. You are wrong, replied the priest, and perhaps I myself, tout à l'heure, will prove the veracity of my statement to you. What do you mean? Asked the innkeeper. First I must verify that you are the person, I don't know why that's funny, the person with whom I am concerned. Did you know a sailor named Gamgez? Gamgez! Did I know him? I should think so, le pauvre Samoir. He was even one of my best friends, cried Outre Barousse, while the clear and confident eye of the priest seemed to dilate to cover in entirety him whom he interrogated. And what happened, monsieur, to le petit Samoir? Do you know him? Is he alive? Is he happy? Is his pipeweed properly seasoned? Is he bound up with the fate of Arda? He died in prison, more wretched and desperate than the orcs who labor in the salt mines of Maury, replied the abbe. A deathly pallor took possession of Outre Barousse's visage, and the priest saw him wipe away a tear. Ah, pauvre petit, he murmured. Voilà encore a proof of what I told your reverence just now, that the good Héroux is only good to the wicked. Ah, he continued in the colorful language of the Briouat, the world goes from bad to worse, and may the Daguerre blow it up in fire and gunpowder, and the story come to its end, sans appendices. There was a moment of silence during which the priest did not cease for an instant to interrogate the mobile, if rotund, physiognomy of the innkeeper. I was called to his deathbed to offer him the solaces of religion, continued the abbe, devouring Outre Barousse with the fixity of his gaze. His last charge was that I remove any blemish his name might have received by proving his innocence of everything but underage smoking. A rich Forodrois, or bonhomme de neige, who shared part of Gamgez's imprisonment, possessed a silmaril of great worth, which he left to Gamgez, who in turn kept it secret. For, should he ever be freed from prison, his fortune was made. It was of great value, then, this Silmaril. Everything is relative, replied the Abbé. It is worth less than the entire Shire and everything in it, but more than Brie. However, you yourself will judge of its value, for even now I am holding a Silmaril in my hand. He slowly opened his left hand and exposed to Blutterberus's marveling eye a thrice enchanted globe of crystal, by immortal gleam illumined, lit by living splendor and all hues essence, their eager flame. I am Samoir Gamge's sole executor, continued the priest. I had 3 good friends and a fiancée, he said. One of these friends was Blutterberus. Blutterberus trembled. The others were Sackville Danglars and Pipin de Touques. I have forgotten the name of the fiancée. Rosé Des, interposed the innkeeper, still staring at the Silmaril. Oui, c'est ça, murmured the abbé, somewhat distractedly. After a brief pause, he continued, The poor unfortunate ordered that the Silmaril be divided in 5 parts. For 4 people, interrupted Blutterberus. The 5th was to go to his old gaffier. Dead! Cried Blutterberus. Dead of hunger! Of hunger! Cried the priest. The vilest animals do not die of hunger. The orcs in the southern deserts do not die of hunger, though such viands be not for us. Even the most wretched gangrel creatures find a compassionate hand to toss them a fish or a bit of half-eaten lembas. And a hobbit of the Shire died of hunger, abandoned among thousands of hobbits like him. It is impossible. Monsieur, neither Rosé Des nor Monsieur Maury, Samoir's shipowner and patron, abandoned le vieux Homphar Gamges. But that Pipin, whom your reverence names among Samoir's friends, the innkeeper smiled ironically. Barlaimont, Barlaimont, came a rasping female voice from a nearby room. Pay attention to what you are saying. Blutterberus replied with a gesture of impatience and continued, How can one be a friend while coveting another man's wife? And she was Pipin's cousin as well. The elder wedded not those so near akin, but that didn't stop him. Poor Gamges had no idea, and it is better thus, for the malediction of the dead is a dreadful thing that makes their blood run cold, that pipeweed tastes like sauerkraut. Nini Hamier, said La Carcherotte, these people would crush you with one gesture of rejection and denial. Her voice keeps changing. What? Exclaimed the abbé. Have they become rich and powerful? Barlaimont, you are master of wood, water, and hill, or you would be, if we could afford the rent, but if I were you, murmured the woman. The innkeeper looked uncertain. You are sans doute right, said the priest offhandedly. So I'll just divide up the Silmaril. A Silmaril? Said La Carcherotte. What is this? She entered the room and was dazzled at the mingled light of the 2 cheeses. Ah, the beautiful jewel, she cried. 1/5 of the value of this Silmaril will go to your husband, said the abbé. That is, when I have sold it. So I better be on my way to see Thorinovich, the money changer. But no, said Blutterberus, it would be a profanation to reward treachery, perhaps even crime. This changes everything, said the woman after exchanging glances with Blutterberus. Do as you will. Are you decided, then? Asked the abbé. Yes, said the innkeeper. I will tell you everything. The woman retired after nodding to her husband. Avant tout, monsieur, began the innkeeper, I must ask your reverence to promise never to reveal that it is I who have told you these things. For the people of whom it is a question have become so rich and powerful that they will smile and with their little fingers crush me like a fly that has tried to sting them. Be tranquil, said the Abbé. Not for the ring, not even for the favors of Lutien, would a priest of Lottaloria betray a confidence. But pray resume your account of the fate of the Gaffier. Bien, it was inconsolable. I would stay up all night pacing and weeping and praying so that I, who lived below, could barely shut my eyes at night. I made an attempt to console him with a rabbit casserole. In vain. Rosades begged him to move in with her, but he refused, even after they demolished Rue Bagshot to make room for the Count de Peregrine's palace, thereby constraining him to move into the inn and ruining his pomme de terre. He would wait for his son to return, said he, be it until the end of the seventh age. Pauvre Gaffier, murmured the priest. Often Monsieur and Rosades came to see him, but he made no response. Although I am certain he was there, continued Butrebrousse. And he became more and more like that. His face resembled a window with the shutters inside, like an automne sans printemps, a Gauloise sans absinthe. Meanwhile, in order to live, he sold all his herb à pipe. Grand Héros, said the priest. He became ill, and the doctor ordered him to abstain from mushrooms. He now had all the excuse he needed, and all the supplications on the part of Monsieur Maury and Rosades were vain. His last words to them were, if you see my son again, tell him he was but a nini amier to take to sea, for it is boats that have brought us to this pass. The Abbé sighed. This tale concerns you much, observed the innkeeper. Yes, it is attendrissant, replied the Abbé. Now tell me, he continued menacingly, tell me who made the son die of despair and the father of hunger. But that'll have to wait till another time. Because I think my turn's up now.
It's definitely a interesting cut and paste ace job, and I noticed multiple references throughout.
Yeah, this takes place in Middle Earth, right?
Yeah, this is Middle Earth if it were 19th century France, or the other way around. Either one.
This is a criticism and also a question. Who was are these humans? Are these elves, dwarves? It's hard to tell.
Let's see. Butterbarus.
All of the above.
I think they're both. They're both. Both these characters are hobbits. I'm not sure about like Harsharot. She might be a
Gotcha.
She might be a wolf. I'm not totally sure. Her name comes from.
You definitely want to. Oh, sorry to interrupt. You definitely want to emphasize that and stuff like this. You'll see it in mine. I have the humans and the Ixani, and you can tell the difference between the two.
Oh, this is an old. I'm sorry. This is an old thing. I'm not going to be redoing it. This is old.
There's also an element of he's just kind of doing it for fun.
Gotcha. That's understandable.
Yeah, this one. This one.
Melvin? There's also the fact of he could never publish this ever in any world.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a copyright.
Well, I mean, it's parody, so it's fair use. It's definitely fair use. But the thing is that it was hard for me to find out. Like, Google hates my guts. Google just has a personal hatred for me because I'm like Googling it. I Googled it, like did the most precise possible Googles, and I'm like, and it's like. Nah, and Google's like, nah. So it took me a while to find this thing. And the only reason I was able to find it was that I know roughly what the address ought to be. So I was able to guess what the address is. But Google you know what, Google, you can just go bleep yourself. I'm sick.
I wonder why my microphone sounds like that. I was listening to myself in the live stream. It sounds a little distorted. That's not how this mic should sound. I noticed that ever since I moved. It's weird. I think something might have happened to it.
odd.
Yeah, just listen to it right now. It's kind of, it sounds a little bit like a tad bit like I'm underwater. I don't know. Let me try.
It sounds fine to me, but that's just me.
Yeah, it sounds fine, but your voice does sound a bit, I think, deeper than I remember it being. But maybe it's been a while, so who knows?
Yeah, I've used this mic for YouTube videos and for narrations. It's a high quality $200 mic, and it should sound significantly better. It should sound like YouTube. But let me take a listen to myself right now. Yeah, it's understandable. At least you can understand me. It's not ideal, but I don't know what's going on there. Maybe yeah, it might have got a little damaged during during the moves or the move. So oh well. At least you can understand me. Sorry to interrupt.
So, what deep thoughts do you have about my juvenilia?
It works fine as an unpublishable parody. Well,
No,
I don't
not
know how
this.
you.
Not that. The thing I did at the beginning. Stuff I did at the beginning.
I thought that was actually pretty. It was pretty funny. Funny.
I didn't understand anything that was happening. Sorry,
Well,
I
nothing
couldn't.
was
I was trying to pay attention, and I was paying attention. It's just the way it was flowing. I don't know. I wasn't understanding anything I was hearing.
Do you want me to read it all over again?
Sure, if you want.
I understood that it was some kind of treatise on political system. I think.
It's on culture actually. Turanian culture. That's what I. It's on Turanian culture. Examination book. Name Beowulf Brably. Subject Turanian culture. So the first bit was about food, and the second bit was about the fine arts.
Mhm.
And then Then I read about drama.
Yeah, I did not get that. Sorry. Are you intending to put that into your book as an aside?
No, this stuff is now. This is like old. Like I said, this is like when I was 13 or 14. There is cultural information in my book. In my serious novel, I do have references to stuff, and some of that stuff might remotely go back to this, but if so, it's been updated, and some of the stuff is totally out of date here.
Mm.
Oh, and I love the way every single vowel in this thing has at least one diacritic. Some of them have two diacritics. Practically every single vowel in here has a diacritic on it. I love the way I went really overboard with the diacritics in those days.
What's a diacritic? Is that a
Accent
writing
mark.
style?
Accent mark.
Oh, interesting.
Like when certain words in Spanish or Portuguese have an accent on them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what those are called. I always thought they were just called accents.
Well, you can call them that too.
He just decides to use the eloquent version because he's an academic like that.
Yeah. Take for example this word gunagia. You got the U has a short sign on it, and then it's got a grave accent. And the A has a long sign on it. And then it's got another accent mark on it, different one. The acute accent. Then the other A has a long sign without any other accent mark. And that's a short.
Makes sense considering you have creative character names. Yeah.
That's that's just a short word. But nowadays I still have accent. I still have diacritics and things, but I've mellowed since my youth.
Indeed, you just got more quirky.
Yes, I also got lazier. It's too much work putting all the accent marks in.
Yeah, I feel that. Alrighty, I believe it is Master Uxula's turn.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Sorry, I was just doing some audio tests, and yeah. So apologies for the mic quality. Something happened to the mic.
It
I
sucks.
checked
Oh,
all my
sorry.
settings on the PC, but yeah, if I play it from the laptop, it'll probably sound worse. So I'll try to make it as pleasant as possible for the listening experience.
It's a loathsome abomination, a piece of the earth must die.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure it's not Streamlabs either, because I've been noticing this in other places too. So, oh well. The mic served me well while I had it. Okay, so we are I'm back, everyone. It's been a while. I went through a hell on earth experience with the apartment I was in, and I had to get out, and so under
Yikes!
all that stress, I couldn't really write. But now I've been moved in and settled in for a few months, and I'm getting back into writing, and I'm loving it. Like, I got big plans for Australia. I think it's going to be my magnum opus for all of my YouTube audience and those who have seen my stories and heard them, and the ones that got a lot of views and people really loved it. So I am a good storyteller. Hundreds of people have confirmed it for me. So that's the good news. All right, let's give a recap. So I'll keep it very brief. We start immediately in this story with a wormhole. That alone implies that this is in the future and in space. And there's also hints in between the chapters. Let me show you. Share screen should work like it did before.
Okay.
All right, there it is. If you want to show that on there. So these are, if you guys have ever read novels, I've noticed this in a few that I've rented from libraries over the years, and I noticed that sometimes, especially best-selling novels, they do these little like interludes in between chapters, and so that's what I'm doing here. So if you see me change my tone of voice as I'm reading, and like basically talk like a politician, that's why, because what these are the snippets of Johann Astara, however you want to pronounce it. It's the future, so who knows? And as you can see, there's these little texts here that say when he said that statement, and this takes place in the past for our main characters. So for reference, in a way, this is kind of Markin's mental state, because he's Pluto intelligence, so he knows this guy very well, and he kind of knows his speeches to pretty much to every letter. So these are strategically placed in between the chapters as world buildings for world building for Australia, if you will. And so, yep, I'll read this one and then head here to Phase 3 Blackout, or Chapter 3. I'm still considering if I want to use the phases or not. We'll see. But the story began immediately in a wormhole. And so in this universe, this takes place in the far future, as you can see, where humanity has developed a machine called the worm conduit that is pretty much the most revolutionary invention in all of history, and they use it to travel the stars. It creates wormholes, and it's going to be very relevant for this novel. So that's why the story starts on a wormhole. And however, this wormhole had a little bit more turbulence than usual, kind of a lot actually. And so everything I'm about to say is going to sound familiar to those who heard those, but I'm going to do major reworks to chapter 1 and 2, and I'll give the recap right now. So what happens is they go through the wormhole, and there's a lot of turbulence, and there's a thing called wormhole fatigue. And so this is Markin's very first wormhole, and the story begins with him sitting next to his girlfriend and best friends, and they're telling him, oh yeah, you're gonna love this. It's kind of like today if someone was to go on an airplane for the first time. It's like, oh, you're gonna love this part's so cool, when the wormhole gets created and things go a little bit wrong. It gets very bumpy, and a few people get a little injured. Property gets destroyed, and Markin has to go to the ER because he's having some headaches. And during the wormhole, he hallucinated pretty vividly. He saw his friend Tanik's face melt off, and then he also saw hands on the outside of the glass, because they kept the glass open so people can watch the sights. Does that make sense? Kind of like windows on an airplane. And so the glass on the outer walls is wide open so people can enjoy the views of the conduit creating the wormhole and what wormholes look like. And people reported that they saw hands in space banging and pounding on the glass. Take that as you will. That was pretty much chapter 1. He went to the ER, met with Tavika. She's in this chapter. She's a nurse and soon to be a doctor. And she's also an alien. So I established that there's the humans and the Exani. And the Exani come from Exula, which is their planet. and they come from a different solar system, and they're pretty much exactly the same as humans. They met along the way, and they kind of united together. And you can kind of have implications in your head of like conflicts and wars that might have happened along the way, similar to human history. And so, chapter 2, Markin meets with the captain, Captain Moon, and they have a talk down. She makes she so basically what happens in chapter 2 is she makes sure that are you fit for the mission. What I'm telling you right now is a reworked version of the recap. She makes sure, are you fit for this mission? And she makes it very clear to Markin that you're not exactly welcome on this crew. And we will find out why here. He knows why, obviously from his perspective, but we'll find out why in this chapter. So what I'm about to present for everybody is chapter 3. This is the perfect entryway from here on out as I present the rest of the story. And I think you guys are going to enjoy this. So, yeah, Valerian and Dunn, any questions before I begin?
No, seems very straightforward.
Sounds good. Just want to make it simple. I don't want to drone on and on. You know how I am. All right. We'll read the snippet from Jahan, Mr. Jahan, who created Australia. And basically his intentions was he wanted to create the greatest, wanted to create Vegas, Atlantis, all of it on one of the coldest, desolate planets as far away from Earth. Why, you say? Ambition. Pure ambition. And so that's the setup for the story. All right, I'll begin. Let me take a drink here before I start. Okay, so forgive me, guys. I haven't read in a while in a audio format, so I might start off a little bit rocky, but I'm pretty sure I can get it to a very smooth reading, listening experience. I don't just want Australia to be like Vegas. I want it to be bigger, bolder. You know, I always loved that place. From its inception in ancient Earth to its trials and tribulations over the centuries latter, to its revival and reinvigoration in 2313. The nations of Earth came and went, but Vegas remained, and I love that. I've always found old Vegas to be an incredible inspiration to me, and that is one of my greatest motivations to building Australia here with you all today. When you hear the phrase, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, I want everyone who visits Australia to say, what happens in Pluto makes me never want to leave. When visitors traveling across the old United States visited Las Vegas to party, to gamble, to have a great time, I want the same opportunity to be available for all our interstellar friends and families across the stars. Come, all you travelers, far and wide, enjoy our luxury hotels, our remarkable wildlife, our fantastical auroral lights. When you find yourselves traveling abroad to Kular and beyond, or if you're returning back home here to Earth, or any of our brilliant colonies here and all our wondrous moons, be sure to stop by and give Australia a visit while you're at it. What are you waiting for? Come on down. I think I did that perfectly. Johann Astara, in his speech to the media during the final construction phases of Australia. Pluto orbit 5183. Phase 3, blackout. The crowds erupted like a concert in the meeting hall. I had never been in a room so overcrowded in my life. As I faked my smile with Tanik and Tavika applauding next to me, I couldn't stop thinking about what Captain Moon said back there as she stood up there on the stage. The sting felt deep. Despite being surrounded by thousands of cheering souls, I had never felt more alone. I really could have used that third shot, I thought to myself. Oh, guys, I forgot to mention she offered him a drink while they were in the office, so. Captain Moon stood at the front of the massive room on an elevated platform as if in an amphitheater or a concert. Surrounded on all sides by 20 armed military soldiers with her, her arms were both raised high as she signaled for us to quiet down. To her right, Earth Emissary Grand simply stood with his hands clasped together, standing tall and looking sharp like a typical bureaucrat at the end of the stage. Behind him and the captain were 3 massive walls of glass, giving a perfect unhindered view of the aurora borealis lights of Pluto as we orbited the planetoid. As the lights shifted from green to purple to red in a beautiful display, I smiled as I thought about Seda. For so long we had dreamed of this moment. I stood up on my tippy toes as I continued clapping along with the crowds, turning my head in every direction to see if I could spot her. She's here, Markin. Tavika was clapping too on my right as she turned her head. She's here. Quit your puppy eyes there, lover boy. My cheeks flushed hot as I turned away. Tanik laughed way too loudly on the other side of me. I punched him in the chest. Ow! What did I do? Prick. Takes one to know one. I punched him again. He cursed. We both laughed. Boys, Tavika hissed. Ugh, so annoying. Attention, everyone! Moon's voice boomed loudly all around us as the speakers amplified her voice. As you can see, the scene behind me needs no introduction. The crowds instantly erupted into loud roars as she held up both hands again with a huge smile. Now I know many of you here today have been waiting decades for this moment. Believe me, I have too. I am honored to be your chosen captain for this historic reclamation. Applause. This was a tumultuous journey, and I want to sincerely apologize to you all today for the excessive turbulence we just experienced in that wormhole launch just shy of 3 hours ago. Grumblings began from the crowd. I know, everyone, I know. As a token of my sincerest apologies, all personal belongings that were destroyed, as well as any physical damage and medical expenses, will be personally paid for by me and me alone in full. Our mechanical intelligence teams are hard at work trying to discover the cause and the reason for what happened. As you know, wormholes sometimes have turbulence, but nothing to that extent. We will keep you all informed as we investigate, so that we may never experience such an unwelcome phenomenon again. Grumblings immediately began all around me. Was it a black hole? A man shouted as loud as he could somewhere to my right. I could tell by the panic in his voice that he was a somewhat ignorant civilian, possibly a soldier. I doubted he was intelligence or one of our many scientists. Angry voices began to rise all around him as many grumbled in agreement. It was not a black hole, Moon replied plainly. I repeat, we can confirm we did not pass through a black hole. I couldn't help but to catch the smirk she was desperately trying to hold back on her face. President Grath, myself, and the Martian magistrate. Actually, there's no and there. President Grath, myself, the Martian magistrate, King Auric, and the UNE can all personally reassure you there are no black holes in Sol. We would be losing planets and moons right now if we were. Then what was that darkness? A woman shouted. My daughter said she saw things, another woman to my left screamed. She's not well. Is this a new strain of worm fatigue? I'm worried sick. Please do something. The crowds erupted. Here we go. Tavika leaned over and rolled all four of her eyes. I just simply nodded and shrugged my shoulders. It was to be expected. Everyone, please. The noises slowly dissipated. Moon lowered her hands. I know you are all worried and very confused. I want to assure you, as captain of the reclamation, that we are working as quickly and as effectively as we can to get to the bottom of this. We are still investigating whether or not we have leaped through Neptune or Saturn. I want everyone to be reassured that you are in safe hands. We didn't pass through Neptune or Saturn, Tavika mumbled in my ear. We didn't leap through any planets or moons. I checked the reports after our appointment. I looked over at her with surprise. Within all four of Tavika's gray Exani eyes, I saw worry and concern. She looked like she was wondering if I was okay, and she also looked at me with an expression that clearly read, what happened in there, in Moon's office? I blinked a few times before simply nodding and looking back ahead. I couldn't tell her even if I wanted to. Moon made it abundantly clear that I was not wanted, and if anything went wrong even a little bit, my ass is done, or my ass would be booted. I couldn't tell her that. Can I have your attention here, please? Captain Moon immediately changed the subject as she snapped at the air. The authority in her voice instantly quieted the chatter. Instantly, large monitor screens flew out from the console up front and phased into existence above all our heads. Like televisions hanging from the ceiling of an indoor Earth concert, a few dozen digital projection screens that were about 5 delrons in height, 4 delrons wide, and 4 Delrons wide, formed in perfect lines above every 10 rows of seats. They all projected the same exact thing as every head looked up and lights dimmed low. Music began to play as a visual of Earth materialized on all the screens. The letters U, N, and E slowly rolled over it as it zoomed out dramatically. I laughed and nudged Tavika's shoulder as I remembered our ancient Earth pop culture references from earlier. Both of us were pretty obsessed with the old Earth empires like Greece, Talcon, the first United States, Rome, Terranin. I mean, the first America was where Neil Armstrong came from, after all. Universal Studios, I whispered as I pointed at the screens. Shut up, Tavika blurted out a loud laugh as she punched my shoulder. That's so stupid, Markin. I giggled like a kid as Tavika chuckled and shook her head. Tanik and a few other angry faces leaned over to glare at us. What in fresh worm's piss is a Universal Studios? Me and Tavika held our hands to our mouths to hold in our laughs. Tanik punched my shoulder. Hey, he whispered sharply. Answer me! As the cliche inspirational music track played, the letters... Sorry, lost my place for a second. As the cliche inspirational music track played, the letters showed and stopped across the spinning image of the globe as text reading the United Nations of Earth appeared directly below them. Immediately, the screen transitioned to the smiling face of President Hiran Grath. May the stars yield warmth upon you. Welcome aboard the Reclamation B-19 Pluto bound. I would like to extend a personal and a heartfelt welcome to each and every one of you. Having a confident and boisterous voice, President Grath began his speech by thanking every volunteer on board as he began to then drone on about the obvious goals of the expedition. Semantics and unnecessary displays as usual, that was typical of the Earthborns. I saw Tanik roll his eyes to my left as I chuckled in agreement. As Grath continued, I looked back at the screens and studied his perfect golden face as he showed all his teeth with a wide and vibrant smile. Like Moon, he was also a Dust War veteran. He was dressed in a presidential red and black uniform with short red hair, green eyes, and he had a large, bulky build. Before I knew it, without even listening, Grath gave his final thank yous, and he faded away as the UNE logo appeared on the screen once again. I leaned over and hummed the tune of the Universal Studios theme song next to Tav. Oh my God, shut up, Markin! She punched me again as we both laughed. Moon immediately snapped at the air as the screen switched over to a diagram display of the solar system. In the center was our sun, labeled Sol, and surrounding it were all of our homeworlds and their moons, listed on the screens as they orbited the star in real time. Half of the heads turned to the captain as she began to pace the stage. Uranus, Neptune. Moon stopped and pointed outside the glass. Pluto. She paused for a second as she continued pacing with her hands behind her back. Her boots clicked and echoed on the floor with each step. 43 moons, 68 colonies, 17 kingdoms, 4 empires, and 314 tribes. She snapped at the air again. The screens changed to show the last 2 planets on the outer perimeter and the tiny dot that was labeled as Pluto, blacked out visually with question marks inside of each of the 3 circles. Meanwhile, the other planets remained lit up and vibrant to visually differentiate the 3. No response from any of these 3 worlds on radio wave messaging. Taking into account the travel time of the speed of light, all light ray messages take approximately 2.7 hours to reach Uranus and its moons from Earth, 4.3 hours to reach Neptune from Earth, and, she pointed outside to Pluto again behind the glass, 4 hours and 27 minutes to reach Australia from Earth. Moon paused as she slowly panned her eyes across the entire audience. Some heads behind me began to murmur quietly. 4 months and 13 days. Over 100,000 repeated radio attempts. Not one response. Not one. You all know this event as the blackout. Moon snapped at the air again, and the screens highlighted the 3 outer worlds. Then they zoomed in closer to them. Below the 3 planets, text appeared that read, "The Blackout." It also appears that not a single one of these worlds, nor their adjacent moons, have been able to reach us as well. Moon huffed as she spoke, eyeing us all sharply. Her authority was intense. She had everyone completely engaged. You all know the seriousness of this implication. We have tried to send scouting ships and drones, and despite the worm conduits sending them successfully to these worlds, Only half returned. Worried whispers arose in front of me. Australia is safe. Fear not. She held up a hand. We have received word back, but she pointed at Pluto behind her. An evacuation has occurred sometime in the past 3 years. All while we've been busy and preoccupied with the hideous dust war, no one who lived or vacationed to Australia in that time has any explanation nor answers as to what happened. Many of them reported strange sightings, and all of them reported that the power was mysteriously affected in most of Australia's oasis districts, with no explanation on how or why. That is why I've called you all here today to this meeting hall. Before we begin Phase 4 and descend down there, something is amiss in Australia. So with that being said, I would like to introduce to you all our teams of skilled intelligence and expertise. Our chosen and trained operatives who will help us in our reclamation and investigation of Australia's technologies, and how we will get them back and online. There's our cue, Tannic whispered as he nudged my shoulder. May the stars shine bright, you two. Tavika smiled and waved at us both as we each smiled and nodded back while we walked away. We immediately began to make our way out of the masses, moving and apologizing to the horde surrounding us as we shuffled through the maze of bodies to the outer window walls. I stood on my tippy toes as I looked around for moving heads, hoping one of them would be Seda. I couldn't see any golden hair yet, but I did see many other humans and Axani in the crowds moving to the windows too along with us. Tannic and I made our way to the left of the hall with about 50 others, while the other 50 or so lined up to the right. First, and most importantly, Moon continued, I hereby introduce to you all our mechanical intelligence operatives, our most vital asset to restoring Australia's technology, and finding out exactly what and how the power was tampered with. Coming from the very best of the very best across all our colonies and worlds, none of us would be here today without these essential operatives and their priceless contributions to this expedition. Mechanical intelligence officers, I invite you all a warm and sun-braced welcome to the stage. May you introduce yourselves, please. Extending her hand as an invitation, me and Tannic watched as around 30 out of the 100 of us on the outer perimeter walked up to the stage with Captain Moon, as the audience applauded. Men, women, and Axani alike, they all looked like tech junkies. Some definitely more stereotypical than others, which made logical sense to me considering their skill sets. Making her way through to each member, Moon stood in front of them all and shook each of their hands as their faces projected up to the screens one by one. By the time she finished, the 30 mechanical intelligence officers all bowed in unison as the crowds applauded. Next, I would like to introduce our heads, the chiefs of intelligence that I have personally assigned to this expedition. Each of these fine men and women will help lead our mechanical officers to success. Tannic Bran, Chief Intelligence of Linguistics. I invite you here to the stage, may you please. Moving on cue, Tannic smiled to me as he walked up the steps. The audience clapped and I joined them, and he stood proudly in front of the 30, placing his hands behind his back, mirroring Captain Moon. Tannic raised his chin up as he faced the crowds with a smile, while the captain walked up to him and held out her hand. May the stars shine bright on your successes down there in paradise, Mr. Bran. They shook and Tannic blushed. I snorted as I tried not to laugh. Moon turned back around to the audience as Tannic looked at me with an embarrassed expression and reddened cheeks. Showing perfect fluent understanding in both English and Takanith in their entirety, Mr. Bran will help us solidify our understandings of one another as we meet the Pluto-born Axani down there in Australia. Our technology can indeed translate both languages, but I wanted to assure you, in regards to the blackout, there is no one better and no one more fluent in both English and Takanith than Mr. Bran here. We do not know what we will face down there, nor if the blackout will affect any of our equipment. Considering that the nightclubs, hotels, and Oasis Riverwalk were all affected and damaged by it, that is why I have appointed a living, breathing human, Mr. Bran, to help guarantee accurate translations between us and the Axani tribes, particularly the Sasulamine, who we will be meeting with shortly. This is a lot harder to read than this is hard, guys. This is a lot harder to read out loud than it is to read on paper. Good night. Hope I'm doing fine. Am I doing good?
Yeah, so far fine. I don't see any problem.
Okay, I think I'm being a little insecure. Okay. Whew. It's been a while since I did an audio presentation, so it's a bit difficult. I got this. All right. Therefore, if any of you need assistance at any point in linguistics or translations for either English or Takanith, be sure to see Mr. Brand and his staff for any and all questions immediately. A round of applause rose as Tannic shook her hand once again. He smiled wide as he gave a humble bow to the crowds. I looked over from where we came and smirked at Tavika as she stood there shaking her head. We both rolled our eyes at each other as we held in our laughs. It was never not funny to either of us that somehow this earthborn goofball that was our best friend Tannic Bran knew more Takanith than Tavika, an Exani herself. It was often teased amongst the three of us that he had to teach Tavika words of her own language, which was often embarrassing, and led to fuel to the fire that was our jokes and banter. Since she was born and raised on Earth, she wasn't entirely fluent in her people's native tongue like the Pluto-born or outer world-born Exani and humans, since Australia is and has been the #1 tourist hub of the Sol system. I suppose that's what extremely hard work earned Tannic 21 years straight of ruthless studying. Next up, we cannot forget about Australia's wonderful wildlife, now can we? The screens above began to show a slideshow of koalas, giraffes, pandas, cats, dogs, deer, and all kinds of wild earth animals, as the crowds cheered and awed. Some of the visuals were extremely adorable, like the puppies or the pandas as they showed their big black eyes on the screens. That was definitely intentional. Sada's son, Captain Moon shouted. She held out her hand next to Tannic. Head Chief of Pluto's Wildlife Preservation. May you introduce yourself, please? My heart leapt in my chest. Sada emerged from the other side of the room and walked up the stairs to the stage. As the applause began, I clapped and cheered far louder than everyone else around me as I cupped my hands to my mouth and screamed. She looked absolutely breathtaking. Dressed in a well-fitting and frankly sexy-looking suit, identical to the ones me, Tannic, and the rest of the chief heads of intelligence were wearing. Let me make a quick edit there. Chief heads. There we go. And the rest of the chief heads of intelligence were wearing. Sada's son smiled and blushed at all the attention as she walked up the steps. She turned away with red cheeks, holding her hands over her eyes in embarrassment from the crowd. Moon reached out her hand and Sada grabbed it without looking and shook it rapidly. She tiptoed quickly next to Tannic and stood in place as Captain Moon, Tannic, and the entire audience laughed and cheered. She was adorable. May the stars shine bright on your successes down there, Miss Sun, Moon said while chuckling as she tapped Sada's shoulder. The captain held one hand on her and the other she waved towards the screens. As you all can see, Miss Sun's role is also extremely vital. What is Australia without its wonderful exotic wildlife? The crowds cheered and whistled as the screen showed elephants, hippos, stingrays, exotic fish, penguins, and panning shots of the hundreds of miles of gorgeous jungles, rivers, and the lakes that surrounded the City of Lights. Miss Sun is a lifelong trained Earthborn veterinarian, as well as a much beloved and respected animal caretaker at the New York Zoo she has worked at for the past 10 years. We do not know what may have happened to the wildlife in Australia as a consequence of the blackout, so I encourage you all, and any and all questions or inquiries, or any sightings of animals in help or in need in any way, please see Miss Sun immediately. The hall erupted as cheers rang out all around. Nothing like a kind soul to look after the animals to instantly move a crowd. I had the biggest smile on my face as I screamed her name loudly and clapped above my head in complete futility. My voice was completely drowned out. That's my girl. Facing the crowd, Sada blushed some more. She bowed rapidly many times before scanning the audience and finally finding me. Our eyes met and my heart instantly melted. Sada smiled wide and nearly teared up. I held up my right hand and cupped it into half of a heart shape as I blew her a kiss with the other. Sada giggled and closed her eyes from smiling so wide. Her hands twitched, but she stopped herself. Knowing not to draw attention to me or to make a horde of eyes turn in my direction and sour the mood due to moonborn sentiment, she simply kept her hands by her waist and used her right hand to form half of a heart upside down right there by her side. My real heart melted. I had never been so happy in my life to see her. It had been a long and troubling journey since the turbulence, and I still felt that weird stinging headache from the wormhole fatigue, even after visiting the ER. "Mark in stride," Moon shouted, my name loudly as my stomach instantly lurched. "Head Chief of Pluto Intelligence, well-versed in all things Jahan Astara, Dyax Khaleen, and of course, Astradia itself. Our map and our guide. If any issues arise down there, and if any of our technologies fail us at any point, Mr. Stride." Oh, sorry, I accidentally skipped a line. Any of our technologies fail us at any point, Mr. Stride is always available in the same way Mr. Bran is available for translations. "Mr. Stride, may you introduce yourself, please?" Moon held out her hand next to Tanik and Seda as she met eyes with me. "Oh, worm piss," I thought to myself as my heart beat rapidly in my chest. Here we go. The moment I had been dreading. Breathing deeply, I slowly made my way nervously up to the stage. Seda, Tanik, and the 30 behind them cheered and clapped for me out of respect, and I smiled back wide at my friends as I climbed up the stairs. As I turned around and stood in my spot next to Tanik, the applause from the audience instantly stopped, and I was met instead with the dead silence. I looked ahead at the thousands of faces, and exactly as I had expected, I saw them. The death glares. Every time, I thought to myself, every star-forsaken time. Damn it, I wish I could have had that third shot. Looking up, I saw the monitors broadcasting my face in vivid detail across the hundreds of screens, just like they did for Tanik and Seda. They showed my pearly white hair, my neon green eyes, and my charcoal grayish white colored skin on full display for all to see. It was blindly obvious that I was a Luna Moonborn, and as I looked around, I tried to keep my smile up as long as I could, as all I saw in return was anger, and mostly eyes filled with outrage. I'm gonna take a drink of water really quick. Moon's boots clicked and echoed eerily as she walked towards me. Turning and facing the crowd, she squinted her eyes as we shook hands, staring at the audience and never looking once at me. "May the stars shine bright on your successes down there, Mr. Stride." Her voice was low but tense. Sounding normal in front of me, she was amplified by the speakers as it bounced throughout the entire hall. It was only met with silence and an echo. Moon let go without facing me and stomped forward on the stage angrily. "I want to make something abundant and absolutely clear." Moon's tone immediately sharpened as if it was a blade. Half of the faces turned to look at her, some were startled, others continued glaring at me. "I know what you all are thinking, and I will not be tolerating it aboard my expedition nor within Astradia. I choose my heads of intelligence. I do." She paused as she turned her head slowly from left to right. "The Dust War is over. I want you all to know that these three," she turned and pointed at us angrily, "are my head chief intelligence officers. All three of these men and women are vital to this reclamation. Do you understand me? We are united, all of us. I will not tolerate any division or dissuasion amongst this crew or in this mission. The Dust War is over. It's done," she repeated aggressively. "Reclaiming Astradia and helping the populations recover from the blackout is our top priority now, and our number one purpose here, not the war. Do I make myself clear?" Dead silence. Not a soul dared to object. Everyone was startled by the captain's sudden angry outburst as the echo of her shouts sent chills across the hall. Moon stood still and panned her head slowly, breathing heavily like a bull as she placed her hands once again behind her back. Like a charm, she was able to ease the death glares, and now only a few of the faces in the crowd were still glaring at me. The rest were either looking down at their feet, at the captain herself, or away in shame. Thank the sun, I thought to myself. Thank you, Captain. Moon huffed and turned back towards me as she placed a hand on my shoulder. Looking directly into my eyes, she pierced my very soul with an expression that was chilling. "I expect only the best from you, Chief Pluto Intelligence. Do not disappoint us." I felt goosebumps as she let go and turned back around. Shouting out the next name, the crowds began to clap again as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, I felt like I had been punched in the throat. The way Moon said it, it was abundantly clear to me that I was not her first choice. I was not welcome among this reclamation. "You did great, brother." "You did great, Moon brother," Tanik whispered as he nudged me with his elbow. Nothing you could have done about that, Mark. You know what people are like after a war. You did great. I only sighed in response. I shook my head disappointedly. My smile was long gone as I then mindlessly clapped with no enthusiasm. Tanik's comforting words helped a little bit, but it couldn't take away from the sting. I had no idea the anger for my people was simmering even now, even here. The next person Moon called up was an Exani doctor, Akal Pramid, or Mr. Pramid, as Moon called him. A renowned chief head of healthcare, he was the reason Taviko's not up there with us. She wasn't quite a doctor yet, and Akal had her outdone by about 10 years of experience. The next name after him was Emissary Gran himself, whom Moon encouraged any political questions or inquiries to go to, as he represented President Grath, Earth, and the entire UNE. He remained where he was to the side of the stage as he bowed, waving at everyone with a big smile. Moon continued on with more names and introductions as I eventually lost track and stopped listening. My heart was heavy and my thoughts began to grow dark. As I stood there frowning, all light and joy had completely gone from my face as each and every introduction, leading to applause, made my own sting and hurt so much more. A hand gently touched my side and nearly made me jump. I looked over to see Seda standing next to me. Seda, I whispered, shocked. I didn't even realize she slowly moved past Tanik and traded places with him. Take the hand, stupid, she whispered sharply, smiling wide. Tanik snorted next to her. I audibly went, ah, as I lowered my hands. Snatching it instantly, Seda interlocked our fingers and she squeezed it tight. I felt like life had flowed back into me. The warmth of her hand and the feel of her touch was invigorating, and I felt a smile slowly returning to my face. I looked over and gazed at the beautiful woman standing next to me. Standing proud at 6 foot tall, only a few feet lower than me, Seda's son was the most gorgeous being in the entire universe. Long golden flowing hair with streaks of red interwoven through it. Seda turned to meet my gaze as I peered deeply into the purple irises of her eyes. I was entranced. Like an ocean made of lavender, her eyes looked like a supernova of a gorgeous dark star explosion. Idiot, Seda hissed quietly, blushing. Taking her hand out of mine, she poked me in the ribs. Ow, I whispered, flinching. Crowd, silly. She tilted her head towards the masses, smiling giddily, reminding me we were on a stage. I blushed instantly too as I choked on my laugh. I wanted to break out into coughs, but I forced it in as not to draw unwanted attention to her or myself. There were already several dozen heads glaring at us. We both raised our hands and clapped along with the crowds as Moon introduced her next and final name. And now, lastly, Colonel Lionel Brax. Applause. I love you, I whispered. Seda turned to me and squealed with excitement. We made it, Marky, we made it! I grabbed her hand and kissed it, not giving a care in the world about who might be watching us. Screw 'em. She instantly pulled her hand away, blushing heavily as she rapidly scanned the audience. To hell and the sun with them, I whispered as I peered into Seda's beautiful eyes. We both smiled deeply as we looked into each other's souls, while Tanik looked over and snorted loudly, shaking his head with a smirk. Now I want to emphasize something extremely important. Moon's voice grew loud as she instantly caught all of our attention. King Auric VII of Taken has expressed worry and concern for the worlds afflicted by the blackout just outside his kingdom's perimeter. She snapped at the air, and the screens changed to the blacked out worlds again as it zoomed out to show the closest unaffected neighbor, Saturn. Ever since we lost contact with all the worlds past here in Uranus, many lives from the colonies and kingdoms of these three worlds have fled to his kingdom and the Saturnian rings for refuge. And he has reported both to the UNE and Martian magistrate that many have displayed signs of hysteria, and for some cases, lunacy. You could hear a pin drop. As Moon explained the situation, Colonel Lionel Brax made his way up to the stage and walked up the steps. A massive man, he looked like a living tank. He was so tall and bulky he looked like he could easily throw a transporter or an Earth automobile, like it weighed nothing. He passed by all of us to stand in his spot as he emotionlessly glazed over all of us. That's him, Tanik whispered, leaning over. Seda and I looked over at him. Brax, Tanik explained. He was the one that killed System and ended the Dust War. Me and Seda looked at each other with wide eyes as we then looked back ahead at the back of Colonel Brax. Brax was a 10-foot tall, easily 500-pound, massive behemoth of a Marsborn. Pure muscle, with barely any fat, it was extremely believable to us that this man in front of us was the one who fronted the famous surprise Darkside Moon raid and executed Sarnan Sistam, the leader of the uprising, finally ending the war. As I looked at the monitors above, we all saw the face of a hardened war hero. He had the usual Marsborn reddish, clay-like skin, with green eyes and a chiseled face. He was clean-shaven, except for the massive and intimidating scar covering most of the top of his head and going through his right eye, removing any trace of an eyebrow that was once there. Judging from the scar, Brax must have suffered one hell of a blow during the raid, and it was hard to tell if he had a replacement eye or not. Technology had become so advanced these days that real eyes and fake eyes were nearly indistinguishable. He was dressed fully in the same red and black military uniform as Captain Moon, and he was fully equipped with war attire, bulletproof vest, knee pads and arm pads, ammo packs and military gear, and holding a massive assault pressure rifle with a traditional bullet-based assault rifle strapped to his back. Both were essential in warfare, since bullets weren't affected by EMPs or pressure diffusers. The crowd's eyes were wide as they looked at the intimidating figure standing next to the captain, towering over the rest of... Oh, crap, lost my place. Oh, where was it? Towering over all of us as he gazed coldly ahead. Moon shook Brax's hand like she did with the rest of us. May the stars shine bright upon your successes down there, Colonel. General, Brax rumbled with a deep voice and only nodded slowly as the captain turned back around. President Grath and I have assembled the best of the best. By the way, guys, I'm reaching the end here. She waved at all of us on the stage. The best intelligence and the best soldiers. She waved at Brax next. This is why I have saved the second most important for last. Moon placed her hands behind her back as she began to pace the stage, beginning her closing statements. The lives of our technicians and our intelligence staff are extremely vital to this reclamation. This is why we will be working with Colonel Brax and his entire ground operation strike units as if we were in a war. We do not know what to expect, and we still have no answers from the rest of the 157 other reclamations currently exploring Neptune and Uranus. We are the first to arrive to Pluto, so it is on us to execute the reclamation efforts best we can as we wait for B-20, B-21, and B-22 after us. I myself will be providing... Oh, I think autocorrect changed that to proving. Providing. I myself will be providing orbital overwatch, both militarily and directionally. We will be prepared for anything, if anything decides that it wants to be prepared for us. Murmurs began again from the crowd, this time more excited and a lot more assured. Some of the eyes cut straight to me with anger, outright screaming at me, your moonborn terrorists did this, didn't they? That's why Colonel Brax and I will be leading and surveying the entire expedition on the ground with each and every last one of you. Safety of our staff, safety of the Pluto-born, and safety of all resident Astradians is my utmost top priority. Restoration and investigations of Astradia is our second. She snapped at the air as the screens then changed to a gorgeous image of Astradia, which looked like an advertisement poster for Valhalla itself. Immediately, the sheer beauty of the image before us brought forth a few loud cheers and excited shouts from the crowds. Seda squeezed my shoulders and leaned in close to me as she squealed with excitement. I wrapped my arm around her and smiled as we both looked up at the screens, like lovers on an Earth cruise. This was going to be our best vacation yet. So with that being said, I will not be delaying you any further. Let me repeat that again. So with that being said, I will not be delaying you all any further. Moon clapped her hands twice as the screens instantly shot away and the lights slowly turned back on. May the stars shine bright upon all of you down there as we reclaim Astradia. Everyone, let's get to work. And I'm going to finish with this. go ahead and show that done whenever you're ready. So as you can see here, chapter end. That's an excellent question, actually. Which do I prefer Australia to be like? Atlantis, the Bahamas, the rainforest, USA, DeCalabre, France, Callison, Las Vegas? You know what, darling? All of it. Why not, after all? Let's turn this lonely, cold, lightless rock of Pluto into something incredible, something breathtaking. I will declare it here and now. For all of you, let the records know. Australia is going to be all of it. Vegas, Atlantis, Bahamas, USA, the rainforest. We are going to make Australia have all of it. Why, you ask? Well, allow me to answer that question with another question. When we all come together and put our minds to it, who's to stop us? Johan Astara, in response to the press questions during the construction phases of Australia, while visiting DeCalabre, Mars, DeCalabre, 5193. All right, that went on long enough. I am done. Hey,
No!
that's Codex. What did you guys think of that scene?
I think there's a lot of good character work. I think there could be some like small edits to make it a little bit more concise in terms of conveying the same thought, but use a couple less words.
Right. Yeah. Do you have any notes I'll write them down as you speak.
One of them was a kind of the description of our buddy. Their friend was a little bit wordy, I think, like kind of in reference to like their friend was now. I can't remember exactly, but that stood out to me as okay. That could be a little bit condensed down. I think overall it's good. The only thing that I had were just minor condension stuff.
Is that the one with the bulky
that's exactly
build?
Why I'm here.
Sorry,
Blair, what was that?
Is that the one with the bulky build bit?
No, it was the kind of like our friend from high school was doing X, Y, or Z. I think I can't remember.
Yeah,
exactly.
that part where Markin was explaining in narration that a human knew the alien's language better than the alien and joking about it. It was too wordy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good bit of characterization. I think that it works conceptually, and I think you should definitely keep that. But I just think that like some minor condensation on it, just making it a little bit tighter would probably help a lot. But overall, I think it's good. I don't have any problem conceptually with anything in the chapter. I just think the like just minor tweaks to make it a little bit more flow a little bit better and just be a little bit more concise would be the main thing. And that was just one example that popped into my head.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what I'm here for. As you guys know, I already presented this chapter and I got the feedback on the it's kind of about 99% exactly the same as it was the first time. I just added a few more little details to the world building. But yeah, I'm very confident with the scene and very confident with the story. I'm simply here to get critiques on the grammar and word choices. Do you have any examples of mistakes that you'd like me to correct that I can write down right here?
Well, one that jumps to mind in terms of me and, well, I guess, I don't know. Actually, on second thoughts, I'm not sure. There's a bit where he's saying me and Seda. It depends on how casual you want the style to be, because it should really be Seda and I.
Seda and I.
But I mean, if you
I gotta fix that. Editors are gonna, the publishers are gonna, they're gonna point that out. So yeah.
If you want it to be really casual, you can keep it in. Like you can. It is possible to produce a work first person without perfect grammar, like Huckleberry Finn, for example. But
yeah, in dialogue, I'll keep it. Like if Markin's a bit concise in his speaking, and you can definitely tell Captain Moon is very concise in her vocabulary. But there's also a casual nature about him. So I think in dialogue that you could obviously keep me and Seda because that's how people talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely for the descriptions, I wrote it down already. Seda and I, me, person, and I. That's correct grammar. My bad.
And having something voice should be with a something voice. I think it was something where it was.
Can you describe it? I'll scroll up to it and I'll tell you what
Unfortunately,
it
that's
was.
all I've got here. I've got having a blank voice. I scribbled down while I was listening. Um, we're having a blank voice, and it seemed like it should be like with a blank voice or something like that. It sounded a
Having
little,
a blank voice.
yeah.
I don't recall anything in here
Maybe I misheard, but
that's like that. I'm scrambling in my mind. Thanks, James. Appreciate it. Not bad for getting into the swings of things. Yeah, I struggled really bad on the reading, but I'm very
oh
confident in the
no,
material.
you're fine.
Um,
Well,
to say it again, Valerian, I'm gonna try to find that.
having a something voice. I don't remember the adjective.
Blank voice or something like that.
Yeah, I don't. I said blank because I don't remember the adjective.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
the blank is a fill-in. Okay, so having a something voice. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, where
Where
I
is
thought
that?
it's towards the beginning. I thought it should be like with, but I maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong. I mean, I just scribbled that down while I was listening.
yeah. Let me write that down right here. Having a and then a few underscores voice. Yeah, I agree with you actually. If that is in there and I didn't accidentally say that while reading and misspeak what I was reading, yeah, I definitely got to correct that grammar for sure. Having a blank is probably having a strong voice, having a loud
Yeah,
voice.
something like that. Something like that. I don't remember.
Was it when the captain did her angry outburst? I think it might be that part.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Unfortunately, I've only got here what I scribbled down on this scrap of paper. Uh, and the bit where they looked into each other's souls. That might be a little cliche.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking that while I was reading it. When I wrote it, it felt good, but when I was reading it, I thought, this is a bit too descripty. This is a bit too much. We gotta save the romance for the actual honeymoon scenes. Like, like when he's planning on proposing. That's the proper place for that, not
Yeah,
really here. But at the same time, you gotta have a little bit of sweetness here because she is comforting him
yeah,
because he just received a brutal blow from the audience.
yeah, yeah. The audience are beliefs.
If you guys want to know why that's in the story, it's going to be a little bit relevant for later because, as you guys know, in the next chapter, the soldiers attacked Markin, and that builds into character work later on as they realize that they're not so different and that they realize they're more alike than they initially realized. And one of the lessons that I'm teaching in the story, because there's a lot of themes and kind of like deeper thought messages, is don't overgeneralize people groups just because of extremists. That's one of my messages. And the reason for that is because of a few things. Like I'm watching the world around us and it's reminding me of history. Like Israel and so goes to war as usual, and then next thing you know, you got anti-Semitism on the rise, or Japan attacks in Pearl Harbor and Americans treated the Japanese very badly right after that happened. For a while there too, they threw them in concentration camps and treated them like shit. And then the same thing in 9/11. Um, extremists attacked America 9/11 the same way Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, and Americans treated Muslims like crap. And I see that same pattern over and over again in history, and it's disheartening. So don't overgeneralize just because of whack jobs. And yeah, that's definitely one of the narrative themes in the story. What did you guys think of the part where I forgot to mention in the recap that when they went into the wormhole in the inciting incident, you're not really supposed to see pitch black darkness. It's kind of a light show. And they saw pitch black darkness, which raised a lot of alarms. And then right after they saw that darkness, then they saw the hands pounding on the glass, which I'll leave that for your imagination to speculate on what the hell that is. That's one of the hooks of the story. Um, but what did you guys think of the audience who not everyone is a genius mastermind or not everyone is highly intelligent like the captain. Some people are more lower IQ and they don't really know how black holes work. Or, out of panic, they just assume it's a black hole. What did you guys think of that characterization and the response to it?
You kind of threw a lot of characters, so I'm not really sure which one.
Oh, I'll give a very brief recap. Captain Moon was apologizing for the turbulence and the damage to property, and the crowd started getting frantic and started saying, was it a black hole? My daughter's seeing things. If you guys remember Lua in the next chapter, that's actually reference to that. But she saw the hands too. Oh my god. And so it's that response where the crowds were shouting at the captain, like, a few individual stragglers were shouting, and she, put up her hands to ease them and say, no, 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 I can guarantee you the Martian magistrate, Earth's UNE, and Saturn's kingdom can all guarantee you there are no black holes in Sol. We would be losing our planets and moons if there were. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have that much of an opinion on them. It was kind of just he was a character within the. I remember kind of the main guy and his girlfriend, mainly because of their dynamic with each other,
Mm-hmm.
where they have a very much a playful deal. But I can't
Yeah.
necessarily say that I remember much else or had much of an opinion other than.
I mean, I remember Tannic and I remember Brax, but I'm remembering them from last time too.
Yeah, those are the big players. As you can see, I'm setting up Tannic and also Seta's. I'm setting up everybody for major roles. Like, his translation skills are going to come extremely in handy as things start to get intense. And actually, same thing with Seta, believe it or not. Like, she's there for the animals, but she will end up being, well, I'll let you speculate on that. Her skills are going to come extremely in handy. And then Markin is actually going to, he's hated at first, but because he knows this city and this place extremely well, and that's the only reason he's on the crew, that's going to come very much in handy for the soldiers, for the captain, for everybody. We do a little bit of fun character development in the planning phases. I've been planning this sucker for like the past 3 years. I've been slowly working on it in my head, like fine-tuning things, taking things out, removing things. And I still am. I'm always constantly improvising, and if I have an idea that's better than an idea I had 2 years ago, of course I'm going to use it. That's what a good editor does. They always choose the best idea no matter what. And so that's what I'm trying to go for.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'll find that line, having a blank voice. Any other grammar issues or word choices aside from the stutters?
Let me think.
So the bit where people were freaking out, I assumed was setting up what's going to be happening because I remember what happening next, and that's mostly kind of like a hook too.
Well, imagine with me for a moment. You take your friend who's never been on an airplane before, and you go on an airplane. You're traveling, I don't know, from LA to Dallas or something. And you go, okay. And the friends are telling them, like, this is chapter 1. And they're telling them, oh, you're going to love this. The light show is awesome. And so imagine you take someone on the plane and everything's going well, but then there's a lot of turbulence due to a lot of extreme winds. And the turbulence is so strong that it kind of knocks stuff out of the compartments, and people drop their laptops and phones, and people are getting really angry about it, and also protective of their kids and families as well. And so imagine after that happens, when you land, the captain is personally apologizing. Imagine how the people would react.
Okay.
Fair enough. But also it's assume it's set up too, though.
Not that particularly. The setup is the turbulence itself and the hallucinations that a few people saw. Markin was one of them. So in my rework, he saw the hallucinations. It freaked him out, and since it was his first time in a wormhole, he's assuming, based on the ER and Tavika's diagnosis, that he's just having worm fatigue. Well, as most horror stories go, that's usually how it starts. You know what I mean? That's intentional, but that's interesting that you brought up. So, Valerian, you said that the crowd reactions, you think it's having a setup?
Yeah, because I assumed that they were referring to these things as a way of setting up that all these like all the hallucinations and all this other stuff that was going to be happening.
Oh yeah. Not everybody saw the hands. Only I think the number I chose was 13. 13 people saw them. So I would say yes, it is setting things up. It is the inciting incident after all.
The only other bit of feedback would be I would not use the words "as you know."
Yeah.
Uh, that
But
that comes off as Maiden Butler dialogue, and it's kind of a trope. Unless you were to say, what you do not know is, or just
well,
kind of so.
that's why I created this scene. This scene is a clever I don't mean to stroke my own horn, but I put a ton of thought into it over the years. I wanted to give the context of why they're heading there and what the mission is, but I wanted to do it in a natural, organic, and interesting way. Proper exposition. So when Moon says to the crowds, as you know, um, the blackout or whatever it was, the line, they do know that, and she's saying that to emphasize that, and then to go into the subject of this is what you don't know. You guys probably noticed that most of her speech was stuff they didn't know because she knows more about what's happening than they do. And so the entire point of this initiation was to get everyone on board. What's the mission? What are we doing? And who's who to go to for which questions? Pretty much that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make
Yeah.
sense. Okay.
I could probably take that line out, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
Let me
Yeah.
see. Here it says, I know everyone I know. That's not the same as a token. I'll blah, 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 blah. Let me see. Where's the blackout part? Obviously, the chapter is called Blackout. So, what's fun that this is just a little add-on from me here in the studio, but you can probably tell that I'm using the blackout as a setup for something, as well as a reasons for why in this timeline of the future they will be limited with their technology. Because you can imagine in like the years 5300, you kind of don't really need humans for anything, right? But when you have a strange celestial event happening that's blocking all communications and randomly turning off the power, and nobody can figure out why, it's probably a good idea to bring humans and people along, like the Ixani, for example, not machines or AI, in order to get basically what the captain's doing is she wants people she can trust. She's a war veteran. Brax called her general. She's a general of the war, and so she likes to play things safe and to make sure she likes to cover. What's the word I'm looking for? You know how the SEALs do it, where you cover all your tracks. That's the word. That's the phrase. She's trying to cover all her tracks. But where was that?
AI is overrated anyway.
Hmm?
I said AI is overrated anyway.
Yeah, I'm strongly considering because I have a few predictions in my head on where the real world is going. I think the AI revolution is going to end very, very badly for a few reasons. Mostly because I think we basically created gods, and these gods are perfect in every way except that they're not biological. So it's going to be a very interesting future here. And one thing I'm worried about is that digital technology will never be trustworthy again, and it's already getting there, where no video evidence, no digital photos, no video recordings, no audio recordings, no live streams, nothing will ever be reliable ever again. And I think it's going to end the digital age because we're currently living in the digital age. I think AI is going to end the digital age because no one can ever trust what they see ever again. You know what I mean? I think that's going to happen in about 10 years. So I'm strongly considering for the story um, taking AI out, implying to the audience that AI was removed from public life at some point and only like reserved for I guess maybe like higher officials, military leadership, I suppose. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it.
Kind
I'm
of like
still trying to think
Warhammer,
about it.
kind of like Warhammer 40K, where one of the big things in the past was an AI generated war with the Men of Iron, and so after that, the Imperium put a ban on any kind of AI, and when they encounter an AI in the wild that's actually somewhat sentient, it's a big deal, and they're usually very, very dangerous.
It also
Yeah,
reminds me of.
exactly.
It also reminds me of June. Speaking of Dun Messiah,
Yeah, yeah. As you can tell, I'm not really. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I am. I do feel like over time my IQ is increasing, and I don't really know how. I'm trying to figure out, like, wait, why is it just now in my life my IQ is increasing? Was it because of the intense stress I was under? Did that do something to my brain? But anyways, I'm thinking things through. I'm trying to make this as grounded and as realistic as possible for a reason. There's a reason for that. I don't want this to be like Star Wars where it's obviously fictional. There's sound in space and all that stuff. This is more grounded like Interstellar. Interstellar has scientifically accurate scenes. Even the really dramatic ones, they're still, if you pay close attention, like the docking scene where they're spinning and trying to dock, it works when you think about it because the AI TARS is doing the docking, but it's very intense because they have seconds to do the docking before they enter the atmosphere and burn up. And so stuff like that, I'm trying to make Australia as grounded as possible. And so I like to think about stuff like that, like what's the future going to hold? And what I like to do is I like to look at the past. I think about the past. I think about the current climate, our current societies, our current nations, and I go, okay, what was like this before? Well, the United States is a lot like Rome in many, many, many ways, but also different too. And so I see, and I look at the parallels and I do comparisons and I go, oh, okay, so for my story, I can write that I imply that America falls at some point, but in the lines, the first America, that implies that a second one came at some point. So little tiny little details like that. I'm trying to make this story as grounded and as intelligent and as detailed as I possibly can. You know, you can only write your intelligence. You can never pretend to be more intelligent in your writings. We all know that. I found the line right here. It says 4 months and 13 days, over 100,000 repeated radio attempts, not one response, not one. You all know this event as the blackout. I believe that's the only part in this where she says, as you know. I'm thinking of, let me edit this. We all know this event as the blackout. How's that in the context of that dialogue?
I thought that the historical stuff was clever, um, and well woven into the conversation. Uh, I don't really have any other feedback on it.
yeah, it's tricky to include world building details is tricky, and I think that was done reasonably well.
Hmm.
I've had a lot of time to think about it. I work Amazon and I work 10-hour days, so
Oh,
I
lovely.
created an entire soundtrack for this novel, and the soundtrack, because I think it taps into the same part of the brain. I believe I learned that in high school. I believe that music taps into the same exact part of the brain that's creativity. So as I was developing the story in my head over the years, I would listen to the music, a lot of Daft Punk, a lot of kind of like techno music, and then also some intense music and The Weekend as well. It sets the mood and it sets the tone. And over the years, I've had a lot of time to think while delivering packages and listening to music. Oh, yeah, that part of my story. Yeah, let's take that out and put this here instead.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've basically been crafting it and I'm trying to make it. It's how I write, it's how I do my stuff. And it's worked really well for the channel as well, where I've put a lot of thought into the details of the storytelling. And it paid off very, very well. When people watched my videos and saw the stories I was telling, and they saw it from beginning to end, they loved it. My comments are like mostly like 90% praising me. So that was my confirmation that helped kill my insecurities and helped confirm to me that, okay, I'm not being prideful and arrogant. I actually am a good storyteller, but I want to be humble about it. I want to be humble and reasonable. I don't want to be like I don't want to be like Disney. You don't like our stuff? Well, something's wrong with you. No, 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 none of that, none of that. If people hate this story, I want to hear them out. I want to hear them out and say, okay, that's fair. I'll keep that in mind for the next novel I write. I think this is a good first rodeo. A science fiction horror story, and then from there go into different types of stuff, like that science fiction murder mystery that I mentioned a few months back. I kind of want to do that. That sounds really, really fun. Same universe, actually. I'll have it set somewhere like maybe Enceladus, like the moon of Enceladus, and where the blackout affects them there too. And they don't have any access to technology, so they can't figure out who the murderer is, so they got to figure it out the old-fashioned way. That would be a really fun setting for a very futuristic sci-fi.
Which planet does Enceladus go around?
I don't remember. I think it's Jupiter. I can't remember if it's Saturn or Jupiter. Let me look it up really quick. Enceladus. I was just spitballing a random Saturn. Okay, actually, yeah, that's you know what I mean. Like probably one of Uranus's moons, because that's where the blackout is actually affecting. So I could do that. Actually, that would be an interesting sequel, like an indirect sequel, if you will.
Yeah.
Like a spin-off, like what Wissia is doing. By the way, Wissia, hope you're enjoying this. Reading or listening to this in the future. And shout out to everybody in the future who I'm going to send this to. All of you guys, Red, I hope you're listening to that. I hope you liked it, because I know that he's one of the biggest fans of my YouTube writings, and I told him that I'm focusing on my novel now, and I think it's going to be my magnum opus. And let's see, other people too. Wissia is going to listen later. Raptor is going to listen later. Yeah, tell me, all of you guys, tell me what you think. Message me, text me, or call me, whatever you want to do. Tell me all your thoughts. Anyways, back to life.
So functionally, call you, beep you if you want to reach you.
Sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you say that again?
Call me, beat me if you want to reach me. It's a Kim Possible reference.
Ah, gotcha.
That was one of my main shows that I watched when I was a kid, and we would go on trips where we actually had cable, since I did not grow up with cable. My parents issued cable, and they actually put very hefty limitations on how much computer time we had.
I didn't grow up with cable either. I remember I am of that very interesting generation that's directly between the rise of, like, the rapid rise of digital technology and kind of the VHS floppy disk era. I was right there. I remember being like tiny little kid and like early grades, using the big old bulky computers, and I used floppy drives, I used CDs and DVDs, and none of us thought that stuff was going to change. And I watched it in real time as that stuff rapidly changed around me. I still remember Saturday morning cartoons. I would watch them.
Oh yeah.
And then it's crazy. Like I can relate with those generations, even though I'm not really that old. I'm only 27, and I was there. I was just very small, and I was paying attention. I was like 2, 3, and
Yeah.
I still know how to use a VHS. A lot of kids right now don't know what VHSs are. They
Oh,
need to
Yeah,
watch
that's right, yeah.
documentaries.
Now, whether you want to say I grew up with cable kind of depends on your definition, because I think I would have been 17 when we got cable. Cable existed already, I think, but we didn't get cable until the early 80s.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of
Oh yeah. While I was growing up, the cable was very popular around me, but due to like my parents or stepfather, he didn't have it, so I would just watch the normal TV. I watched the Saturday morning cartoons. So I
Yeah.
kind of like that. I have that relatability that I can talk to every generation. I can talk to boomers, Gen X, millennials, and I can relate with them on something. The generation I don't relate with, and they oftentimes hate me, is Gen Alpha. I guess I'm too smart, or I use too big of words for them, because they they when I talk like this with them, they go, "Okay, shut up, boomer." It's really funny. And I'm like, oh, you guys.
How the bleep old are Gen Alpha?
I'm sorry.
How old are Gen Alpha? Like teenagers and stuff?
Yeah, they're about teenagers right now. Like young adults, like in the single digits, I would say. I've
Yeah.
encountered them on video games and Discord, like just playing Destiny and stuff like that. And I realized they were super young because their brains couldn't fully comprehend some of the things that I would talk about. And it's not that they're stupid, it's just that they're young. That's all it is. They haven't figured that out yet. When I was that age, I was even dumber than they were. And look at me now. My
They're,
IQ is increasing. I don't know how. I'm eating the same foods, doing the same things, just living better. I guess that's what it is, the stress. The
they're,
going away of the stress healed my brain.
their
Yeah,
parents should take away their internet access, if you ask me.
that is
I
probably a
agreed.
good idea.
Digital technology is wreaking havoc on Gen Alpha right now, and I feel so horrible for them. Their attention spans, their vocabulary, their minds, it's wreaking havoc on them. And it's terrible.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, it's a
any other
problem.
notes that you guys wrote down
Mhm.
that I should write down too?
No.
Nope, I think I'm done with my brutal takedown.
Yeah, it wasn't brutal at all. And I'm ready for brutal too. Like I was confident in this one, but when I start presenting chapter 5 and beyond, that's where I left off before I stopped. Yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit more I'm gonna be a little bit more scared. Like what Wissia was talking about earlier. He was telling me don't hype it up till after. And I said, well, I already presented this one, so I know it's good. I'm just here for the grammar and words, and then for as a good starting point. I feel like this is a perfect starting point from where we will go from here. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. One more question. This is I added this in. So many months ago, Trip mentioned that she found it interesting that Brax was carrying uh, had a bulletproof vest on. She said, "Oh, bullets are still used in the year 5000s," and I said, "Well, yeah, in the same way that we today still use spears, arrows, knives. If the military really needs to bring out a knife, they will. Knives are as old as time. Swords too." And so I figured, well, bullets work. They work very well. So I don't see why in the far future where you have pressure rifles, laser rifles, like precision stuff, if the enemy uses a counter, something like EMPs or what I wrote in there, where I think I wrote pressure destabilize. I forgot what it was, but it's implying that as warfare evolves, as war technology evolves, anti methods come out as well. Like we have drone warfare currently, but drones can be taken down with like EMPs and things like that. The only thing that can't be countered is nuclear and atomic weapons. That's the only thing that cannot be countered. Once that detonates, you're done. You're screwed. I would say that's like the end right there.
Well,
Developing hydrogen bombs and
hold on.
nuclear and atomic bombs. Because isn't it actually scientifically possible to develop a hydrogen bomb capable of detonating an entire planet? Isn't that actually possible?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was, honestly.
Yeah, I
Hold
forgot who I heard that from, but I remember watching Oppenheimer and then also the Oppenheimer documentaries I saw before I watched Oppenheimer, and they all confirmed that he was scared of that possibility, especially in the movie. And I realized, holy shit, if a guy that brilliant is scared of this, that means it's possible. That's terrifying to think about.
I don't know if we're going off of him, and yeah, he was the highest person, or his bet was the highest out of all of the various bets for how powerful it would be, and he was magnitudes less than the actual output. But I think that you could. It would require. I think a lot of it would require you to put it very likely in the core of the Earth.
or a world or moon.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like future tense. Imagine this timeline, like Australia, for example. Imagine somebody similar or Elon Musk, someone like him, begins the space age, right? Where we go to Mars and then we start setting up. That's kind of one of the inspirations for this story because of him and because of that ambition, I'm realizing, oh, that means that after him, somebody else is going to do it. They're actually going to do it, and we're going to reach a point in human history in the very far distant future where we will be traveling on moons and planets, and we have a lot of people underestimate how many moons we have. Like Jupiter has hundreds, Saturn has hundreds, Neptune has hundreds, or Uranus has hundreds. I don't know how many Neptune has, but quick Google searches is all it takes. They have a lot of moons. So I was thinking in a timeline like that where you have interplanetary conflicts and wars, similar to what I'm implying here between the Mars-born and the Earth Moon-born. They really don't like each other, and I'll emphasize that later on why. I'm also going to keep it fairly vague as well, not to like draw any parallels to modern politics. It's going to be mostly vague. Like think the Martian magistrate systemically oppresses the dark side of the moon, and they're just not happy about that. So some of them became extremists. It's based on history, but I'm not trying to make any parallels. I don't want to be that type of writer. I really don't like stories that are allegories of that author's time. I find that kind of, except in the case of Dune. Dune, I'm fine with that. But I don't really like it when people making movies make allegories of their time. Not a fan of that.
Me neither. It comes off
So,
as
oh
kind of
yeah,
preachy.
back on the subject. I'm realizing, yeah, I can see a future timeline where some whack job designs a hydrogen bomb powerful enough to blow up a moon.
That's
Luckily, he won't get the
Christ.
funding.
Oh my god, that would be crazy if that actually happens.
If he did it, if he came up with it, but he couldn't get the funding to do it.
Yeah, most likely. Fun fact, I watched a documentary on 9/11 recently to recap myself, and a detail I did not know was that Al Qaeda was planning on getting uranium. They wanted to detonate a nuke in the United States, and they wanted to quote unquote give America its Hiroshima. And when I saw that, I was blown away. I thought, I've lived my whole life hearing about 9/11, and no teacher, nobody ever told me those details. How did I not know that? I was blown away. I think that was Muhammad Khalil. Let me look it up really quick. I want to get his name right. Khalil Al Qaeda. It was that guy. He was the mastermind behind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. There we go. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. That was the guy that orchestrated the entire 9/11 attack. And then bin Laden was the leader. He was like the CEO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched a similar documentary a while back. Or maybe it was the same documentary.
It probably was. Was it the one on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Turning Point? Yeah. I think we watched the same one. I thought it was interesting. It was recommended. I said, "Oh yeah, I should recap myself on that history." And I was blown away by that detail. And thank God the CIA and our intelligence found out about it and stopped them, because that is beyond morbid to think about a nuke detonating in Washington, D.C. and the horror show that would be. Because I think about Hiroshima sometimes, and I think about how horrific of a weapon that was, and the way they died, melting alive. The rivers were packed to the brim with bodies because they were melting in real time. It wasn't just an instant vaporization. That was only those in the immediate radius. Most of the 100,000 died agonizing deaths, and that haunts me. And I think, yeah, let's not ever use a nuclear weapon on human beings ever again, because that is beyond morbid. Anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely see a future timeline where some whack job, like, I don't know, Mars-born decides that they want to detonate a nuke somewhere on another moon. I could see that happening in like the year 5000s or so. Good grief.
It'll be a riot.
How long do you guys think it will actually take for us to start traveling to our planets, considering the complications and how far away they actually are? Like the distance from Earth to Jupiter alone is quite insane. It's a long distance,
Uh,
really long distance.
it would require a lot. It would probably. It would require like the amount of energy that it takes to lift a gram of matter out of the atmosphere is ludicrously high.
Yeah.
So we would, and part of that's not. I don't even know how you could really solve much of that because that's just physics.
See you, James.
Um,
Sorry to interrupt.
because that's just simple physics. That's the amount of energy that it takes to go up against gravity.
You need the budget too.
Yeah.
You need the budget for it.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about that. Humanity finds a way. Think about the Roman Empire, for example. Humanity finds a way to create things that are majestic and cool and iconic. We're just living in a weird time right now where certain types of shadowy rich people funnel the resources to themselves out of greed. And I'm not talking like our politicians or any of that. I'm talking about like people behind the scenes. You know
CEOs,
what I mean?
CEOs
Yeah,
like Bob Iger is a good
yeah.
example. Elon Musk to a certain extent.
Yeah, and
Definitely
that
Jeff
definitely
Bezos.
slows people like that throughout history significantly slow scientific progress. And that's one of the reasons why Australia takes place so far into the future because you'll probably read like novels like mine where they have it taking place in 23 something and I'm going, "No, I'm thinking about variables. I'm thinking about variables along the way. I'm thinking about world wars. I'm thinking about intense conflicts. People being killed before they could achieve, a scientific feat, which delays it by about 100 years or so. Stuff like that. Like if humanity hasn't murdered and slaughtered each other in wars over all the millennia that we've been here, we would be significantly more advanced by now. We've slowed ourselves down by a lot. I mean, think about the moon landing as an example. Why are we not doing that more? You know what I mean? Why are we not doing that? Why has that stopped? Because of Earth conflicts. We did it, if you believe we did. I don't even know. I don't even know what to believe. Was it a conspiracy? Did it actually happen? I don't know, but I'm writing the story like it did happen.
Yeah, it happened.
Markin references Neil Armstrong a lot, obviously, because he lives on the moon that Neil Armstrong famously walked on. So they reference him a lot.
It happened. I belong to the truth generation still. I'm not part of the post-truth generation, so it happened.
Yeah, I seek the truth in all things, no matter what it is. I really don't care how controversial it is or how dark it is. If it's the truth, I'll want it. Period. That's pretty much where that's my like number one philosophy in life. And so,
I can agree with that. Alrighty.
thank you guys for the feedback. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Don't mention it. I couldn't possibly.
All right. So I believe it is my turn. So in terms of the story as it stands, the Azrith are now preparing for battle against a second army of the Delphar, which are these elf-like beings, and they have they had one of their number leave to go try and grab more reinforcements because they don't think they can hold the line necessarily at the moment. So their decision is we need to just make sure that everybody gets out, because if we don't, or make sure that the word gets out and we get more reinforcements, because otherwise we're all going to die. I hear. And there's been a lot of hints so far that that these guys are not necessarily on the level, and that they are actually bad guys. Bad guys
Gotcha.
throughout.
Which story is this one again?
This is the Lords of Eternal Night. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, I think.
This is the Mithril one, right? The Mithril card one.
Mm-hmm. Where basically this deity has been luring people into accepting gifts from her in order to gain greater power, but the problem is the cost is their souls and their wills.
Oh, interesting.
I hate it when that
Sounds like
happens.
real life.
Yeah. Yeah, and she utilizes their natural inclinations, but also makes it so that those are twisted to suit
That is
her
very
own
clever.
ends. Yeah.
Fantasy setting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where are we about right now? 2/3, 1/3, towards the end, finale.
144 out of 146 pages.
Oh, very
Cool.
close to the end. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the finale, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. There's a few things that still need to happen, but the story is almost finished. Finished at least for this
Nice.
first book. We're about to get into. Well, I've started stuff on book 3. I haven't done anything on book 2, other than like a few scenes. I need to actually do it. I need to get working on number 2 at some point. I've kind of been doing my own space opera more than actual hard sci-fi. That's based on it's basically a mix of the LDS mission, my LDS mission, and Warhammer 40k.
Gotcha. Has Warhammer turned you into a fan of sci-fi?
I always liked sci-fi, but I'd always kind of had the idea to do a book about with my mission, but with the structure of Warhammer 40k, I was like, this actually gives me some point of reference. Reference for.
I like Warhammer.
Yeah, I'll read some after the first book is finished. I'm nowhere near finished on that one.
Of course.
And this story
Warhammer
ends.
is so dense too. It's so dense. It's hard to get into.
You were saying, Valerian? Sorry.
This story ends with Mithril raising the interest rates on the credit card.
Clearly. Yeah, for sure.
I knew it. Whoops, sorry about the spoiler.
Indeed. It would be it would be on coinage, I think, rather than credit cards. But sure, we'll go with that. That's her ultimate goal. That's her ultimate goal. We'll go with that.
Yep, she's going to invent credit cards.
Indeed.
Interesting.
It's a whole joke. Oak. It's obviously not true.
It kind of sounds
true?
like it, yeah.
I never
Oh,
joke.
you guys want to know an inside? Sorry, just really quick. You want to know the I don't know if you caught it, but Martian magistrate. I got that idea from Carl. Not directly from him. It was when he used the word magistrate, I realized, I looked it up. It's a government, and I realized, okay, I now know what I'm going to call my Martian government. It's a monarchy on Saturn, it's a democracy on Earth, and a Martian magistrate on Mars, which I will leave up to the reader to... It'll probably be something similar.
Probably an oligarchy.
Yeah. Something like that. I'm still deciding.
Yeah, sounds like an excellent plan. I like it.
Yeah, just a clever little Easter egg there for when I'm published. It's just that little nod towards Carl.
Nice.
I'm definitely putting an "I'm done" joke in here somewhere, especially when they're on the ground in Australia. There's probably going to be a conversation.
Cool. So, well,
All right, so let's hear it. Oh, did Dunn lose connection?
oh, great.
Uh-oh, he'll probably come back in a few seconds. It happens.
Great. Oh, great. Oh, great. Oh, great.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. Oh, that's
oh,
unfortunate. He'll come back.
no. Oh, no. Well, the good news is we get to take power now.
Indeed. I am taking dictatorial control of this server.
So, the only drag is that now I have to do a deadly competition to see which one will be the supreme ruler and which one dies.
Yeah. I'm still trying to decide in my head of the three major worlds who. Okay, I know for sure I want Taken, Saturn to be a kingdom. Um, but as for the United Nations of Earth, the UNE, I'm still trying to figure out what kind of government I want that to be. If it's even going to be like an empire type. Maybe my inspiration is like the United Nations currently. So think of that, but there's a president of the United Nations of Earth, all of the Earth, who pretty much represents the entire Earth, while Earth still remains its like traditional individual little governments for the individual nations and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Prime ministers, fascist leaders, because fascism is a government system, like North Korea, presidential systems. So yeah, there's hints of that for Earth. But as for Mars, I'm thinking, what do I want Mars to be? A republic? I don't know. Martian magistrate.
Carry on. I have to go in the kitchen and grab
Hello.
things. You may as well go on talking.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, maybe I'll just leave it up to interpretation for the readers because I don't know. I don't know. One thing's for sure. Earth is the capital because it has all the resources.
Vos bataillons, marchons, marchons, qu'un sang qu'un pur, abreuve l'océan. Wonder if he even knows he died. He must know.
I think he lost internet connection. Otherwise, he'd be pinging us.
Let's see.
It's done offline on the Discord.
He says, my computer restarted on me. Give me just a second. Give me
Yeah,
just a
that
sec.
explains
He
it.
says,
Very believable.
yeah.
Me. How's it going? Okay.
Oh, here you are.
Sorry, my computer decided to arbitrarily restart on me. I apologize.
Kill it.
Windows update.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Kill it.
Yep, it did that to me recently.
Die, computer, die.
Die, technology, die.
Yes.
As you say.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway. Alrighty. Let's finally get to my stuff. My apologies for taking me so long. That was my bad. All right.
All good.
All right. 116. All right. All right. Dawn came over the dark mouth, and with it the Delphar army. Mool stood before frontmost battlement, watching the enemy army advance toward them. Farah and Kurafir stood on either side of him, a sense of eagerness coming from both of them. We should come up with a name for this weapon, he thought as he looked down at his mace. He'd grown partial to leaning on it while waiting, or at least resting his hands on it. No other mace he'd handled had possessed a long enough handle to allow him to do that. We're with you, Kamal. Farah put her hand on his shoulder. May their blood fall like rain on the mountains, Kurafir remarked, bloodthirst clear in his voice. Kamal flexed his hands, letting his cloak flap in the morning breeze. We shall make them weep tears of blood for attempting to take this fortress from us, he said simply. Let's hope the ancients grant us many to slay. Kurafir drew his sword and placed the tip on the ground in a near exact imitation of Kumbul's stance. Oh, we shall see who kills the most, won't we? Farah rested her forearms on the battlements. Indeed. Kumbul nodded to his fellows. Casually, he motioned toward the Brathen archers, who began lining up behind the walls even as the Inlintian archers filled the battlements. They'd agreed that the warriors from Braith would take a defensive position on the ground behind the wall, while the taller Inlintians would form the front line wall defense. They were as dissimilar a pair of forces as Kamul could even consider. One side wearing...
Can you answer that? That's mine. Give me a second.
Okay. One side wearing thick plate armor that covered them from head to toe with raven imagery on the shoulders and on the helms, and the other wearing more light, overlapping scale plates over the arms, legs, and chest, red or black silk over their armor, pieces of cloth hanging from on their helmets. All their forces were wrapped in cloth, as was their custom, concealing all but their eyes beneath their helmets. In response to his motion, the Brathen archers knocked arrows to string. The Elentian held their T-shaped bows ready, rank after rank of soldiers with their advanced weaponry. How do those things work exactly? Kamul nodded to the crossbows. I've never seen anything like them. Farah nodded, smiled slightly, and reached out to one of the soldiers. The man handed it over, and Farah began demonstrating how it worked. So, this little beauty is a weapon that we've developed to have a rapid number of volleys while still maintaining armor-piercing capabilities. This crossbow works on a very carefully constructed lever system that allows the table to shoot forward, grab the string, and pull it back. Then once you're ready, tap the trigger. She pointed to the long piece of metal near the butt of the weapon. Once you tap it, the string goes forward, loosing the bolt. I wish that we had had these weapons during the wars against the nobility in Braith. Kamul tilted shook his head in amazement. Farah handed the weapon back to its owner. What a difference it would have made. Well, you have them now. Kurafir tapped his fingers against the hilt of his sword. Fair enough. Kamul took a long breath, then nodded to the Delphar. As soon as they get within range, shoot them. The Elentians saluted, then loaded their quarrels onto the crossbows. Kurafir nodded to Kamul. Farah nodded to Kamul and Clara, then vanished into the umbriel and transported himself to another section of the wall. Now that her brother was gone, Farah reached over and took Kamul's hand. Gently, he squeezed it back. Looks like it's you and me against that, he murmured, nodding toward the army. I must say, that was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, with you facing off against those Delphar High Lords. Kamul chuckled. Thank you. I imagine that there will be many more that we must face. He spun the mace head on the ground. Agreed. Farah released his hand, a sense of regret coming from her as the contact ended. You ready? As I'll ever be. Kamul closed his hand around his mace haft. And so we hold. With the blare of their strange horns, the Delphar halted just out of range, resting the ends of their bows on the ground. Why had they stopped? Farah wondered, orange eyes narrowing. Kamul tilted his head and scanned the enemy ranks until he finally saw it. A trio of Delphar, one female with red hair and a sword seemingly made from crystal sheathed at her side, the other two with midnight black hair and angular features. One bore a flag with a bright blazing red tree with silver leaves on a field of green, the other white as snow. We call upon the deathless leaders of this accursed place to a parley, the woman declared, both equally taken aback by this turn of events. Kamul and Farah exchanged looks. Shrugging, Kamul changed his mace to a sword and sheathed the weapon. Well, let's see what your brother thinks. As if in answer, high above them, a streak of black and green smoke smashed down behind the gates. The dark mist resolved into Kurafir, a horse appearing just under him. Kamul and Farah followed, summoning their own spectral mounts. Instead of commanding the gate guards to open the doors, Kurafir's specters appeared and pushed the gates apart. Casually, Kurfir nodded to Kmul. You take the lead. I've never been good at diplomacy, especially not with these abominations. Very well. Kmul turned his helmeted head toward the Delphar and nudged Malfurion forward. As soon as the Azrith emerged from the fortress, the Delphar female tilted her head, the ornate golden headpiece framing her ethereally beautiful face. Casually, she removed her headpiece, revealing her ears. Kmul was surprised to see that her ears were pointed like blades, as well as being at least 4 inches long. I suppose that introductions are in order. The Delphar woman tilted her. Elfar, our woman remarked. I am Arbitra, general of the armies of the Delphar. Kmul, warlord of Braith. Kmul gestured to the other 2 Azrith. Farah and Kurafir, prince and princess of Elyntius. A non-existent country, Arbitra. Arbitra wrinkled her nose. It was swallowed by the waves, from what I recall. Kurafir bristled in anger, and Farah put her hand on her sword. But Kmul raised his gauntlet and closed his fist. Let us be civil with these people. So you are the deathless warriors I've heard so much about, she remarked, tapping her fingers against her saddle. But wait, you aren't so deathless, are you? A sarcastic smile crossed her lips. 2 of you fell when you tried to hide and failed to assert Altar Harbors. Abomination, Kurafir hissed. Now that's ironic coming from you, Deathless, the Delphar High Lady laughed. The natural order of all men is to die. We as the Delphar are the true Deathless ones. You are defying the natural order by cutting yourselves off from the freedom of death. You stole immortality from the gods and denied it to everyone else, Kurafir snarled, ignoring Kmul glaring at him. We were given our immortality as a way of shepherding humanity until it is time for humanity to guide themselves. The Delphar lady narrowed her eyes. It seems as though you have learned nothing. You just want to enslave us and force us to worship you, Kurafir hissed. Peace, Kurafir. Kmul met the Delphar woman's discolored eyes. This is a parley, so we should discuss terms. Glad to see that someone has manners, unlike the disciplined hound beside you. The Delphar lady chuckled. Well, it's very simple. You may leave this death trap unharmed after handing over what the thief Mithrakal stole from us when she couldn't get any real objects of power. They are rightfully ours and will be ours again. Kmul clenched his fist reflexively. We keep the treasures of Nibelung, he said flatly. We keep the fortress. You leave. Ah, a hard bargainer. Arbitra examined her gauntleted hands. All right, we would be willing to let you keep the fortress, as long as you agree to never set foot in our fortress or along our coast. But the artifacts must be given back to us. Then we are at an impasse, Kmul said flatly. These were given to us by Lady Mithrakal. They are ours to use in her service. Your Lady Mithrakal is a thief and a liar, Arbitra said calmly. All she has done is enlist you in her petty war against us. You need not die in a meaningless cause. Forsake your mistress and be free. The thought was so repugnant that Kmul could barely entertain us in it. No, Lady Mithrakal is the reason we're standing here. On that, we agree, Arbitra sighed. What manner of exchange would you ask for those? Nothing, because you will never get them, Farah said flatly. These are our only weapons against you. We will not leave ourselves defenseless. Kurafir gripped the hilt of his sword. We've already suffered at your hands. We will not let that happen again. We intended to sink the artifacts and those who profane them beneath the waves, where they should have been sent thousands of years ago, Arbitra said fatly. With them at the bottom of the sea, no one could use their power. And then humanity would be left naked to you. Farah closed her fist, the gem on her gauntlet glowing as the shadows gathered around her. We need these. No, you need to remove the possibility of war between us, Arbitra said calmly. You sacrificed our kind just for your spells, Farah growled. You destroyed our home. You don't get to dictate what we need. We have done what your false god has pushed us to do. Arbitra's tone was cold. We are here because of what she has done. Let us resolve this without more bloodshed. If you wish to take what is ours, Kamul's voice was more calm than he felt, then we will fight you until you are all rotting in the ground. So it is influencing your mind. Arbitra sounded sad. It is unfortunate. Likely many of you could have been great. Instead, you are slaves to a false god. Hades. Get out! Kamul snarled, unable to keep his fury in check any longer. For some reason, the slave comment had struck at a nerve from inside him. If you wish to throw your armies against this fortress, then we will meet you with sinew and steel. Leave, and we will not pursue you. Bold. Unwise, but bold. Arbitra bared her teeth in a humorless and joyless smile. Well then, I suppose we shall declare this meeting at an end. Indeed. Kamulna turned his horse and motioned to his fellows. We're finished here. However, Farah didn't seem to share the sentiment. We'll find each other on the field, Delphar, she remarked. And when we do, my blade will taste your blood. Arbitra replaced her winged headdress and stroked the crystal pommel of her sword. You may be your father's champion, but you are a babe compared to me. The Delphar turned her horse. However, I'll take your challenge, if you last long enough. Farah laughed derisively and rode back toward the walls. A sense of approval came from Kurfir as he nodded toward Kamul, the rings on his fingers and the amulet glowing dark green. Well done, brother. Kamul took a deep breath, then turned Malfurion toward the castle. We need to prepare for battle. And that's the end.
That was excellent. I liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize. I missed about the first third because I had a delivery. And it was one of those Amazon deliveries that you have to give them a password for.
Oh, I see.
But when I came back, I was able to, because of how well you wrote the scene, even out of context, it was great. Like I caught on very quickly. And I like the way that you're I like the way that you're writing the characters and their dialogue and their tensions with one another. And I definitely I love the way you utilize body language in between dialogue, just like I do. I think all of us do, but you know what I mean. It's something I like to focus on. One of the lines you used was clenched his fist as a response, and that said so much without saying much at all. Like, I really like implicative body language dialogue where a character will jerk or their eyes will cut to the corner or they'll clench their fist for a moment before relaxing. Things like that imply to the audience that person, it tells you what they're thinking without telling you what they're thinking. And I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Delphar lady.
Yeah, she's got a lot of personality.
I wasn't expecting an actual Delphar character to say anything either, so I'm glad that we got that.
We had a Delphar character speak earlier.
Did we? It must have been some time ago.
Oh no, it's fine. It's They're essentially the elves of this world.
Mm,
And it's kind of a weird, complicated situation that I haven't revealed fully yet. That's for book 3. But it's all tied up in the ancient past of this world, when two beings from another planet that were functionally gods, acting as kind of a Prometheus style story. Um,
yeah, I caught that. They
uh,
definitely have a pretentiousness to them. I caught it in their dialogue.
mhm,
And what was I going to say? Oh, I caught the bit about the death and the doom of men and all that.
mhm.
Gift of men, doom of men thing and all that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's yeah. My thought with that is like now that's basically just an inherent part of fantasy now,
Yeah,
where and that's um, the Iliad is an allusion to Tolkien, but it's now just kind of become a mainstream theme that humanity is, unless humanity is altered, they will inevitably die,
yeah.
Hmm.
and
I
that's just the
mean,
way of the world.
pretty much.
My question is, why in fantasy do people even bother writing humans into the stories? Why not just stick with orcs, elves, dwarves, hobbits, etc.? Why not just stick with only those creatures? Because I feel like humans are bound to our reality in a way. And yes, I know it's a fantasy setting, you can bind them to that too. But why not go all the way and just be all the way fantasy? Is there a reason for that?
I think part of it is that if there's no control group, the fantastical elements are less interesting.
Ah, I see. You need something to compare it to. You need something to ground the story.
Hmm.
It may also be because they're easier for us to relate to, although in Lord of the Rings, we're relating with the hobbits and not with the humans. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, I find that argument to be kind of not from you, Blarin, of course. That's a common thing that people say, and it's not true because we've all seen Disney movies with animals. Like The Lion King, for example, doesn't have a human in sight, and that movie is extremely relatable.
well, there's
And then
also,
we've seen things we relate more to the hobbits in Lord of the Rings, kind of than we do the humans. It depends on your perspective.
I,
yeah, there is Animal Farm too.
I think
Yes, exactly.
I think a part of it is that when we have the kind of to your point with anthropomorphized animals, they're functionally humans in an animal skin.
That's true. Yeah.
They're not really they're not like totally animalistic. Like we don't like we're not going to see Mufasa uh, or Simba eat uh, anything
Hmm.
anything
That
other
is
than
true.
bugs, other than bugs.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess
but
that's a bad comparison. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, in things like Lord of the Rings, for example, Gimli and Legolas are very relatable, and neither of them are human.
mhm,
Aragorn is too, and he is human, but Frodo and Samwise are very, very relatable. They're the core and the heart of the story, and they're not. They look like humans, but they're little people, little hobbits. And so I was just thinking, like, I don't really agree with that argument that people make. Like, for example, Transformers movies or monster or kaiju movies where you have to add human characters. No, actually, you don't, because most of the audience is there for the kaiju to begin with. I don't know why Hollywood still thinks that's a thing, that you need to have human characters, because in reality, you actually don't. All you need to do is have them in the background and reacting to stuff. You don't even need to make them a character. They can just literally be in the background, and then you can focus all on the monsters. But we all know the reason they do that is to save budget. We know that's the real reason. Hey,
yeah,
I didn't see you there. She's hanging by my feet. Accidentally kicked her. Not hard,
yeah,
just little tap. Oh, you were hanging out right there. Roommate's cat. She loves me.
uh, yeah. Oh, so it's a girl, so you can't. So her name is not Chairman Meow. there was a rather amusing joke on midnight screenings where it was like, okay, if I'm gonna name a cat, I'm gonna put it in a sack with a bunch of other cats, and then the cat that wins is gonna be my cat, and you will win.
That's so messed up.
There was actually
That's funny.
There was actually a book about that with something like something million cats. There was a where the couple invited all these cats over to see which one would be their cat, and all the cats like had this big, huge screaming war. They all killed each other over who's going to be the cat. But there was only one little cat who hid under the bed the whole time because she said she didn't look all that good. So that ended up being their cat, and of course they loved her and all that rot.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you will wear, and the analogy ended with, "You will wear the kitty hat, and you will be forever known as Chairman Meow."
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Meow.
Sherman Meow. Oh no.
Yeah, I love that. I thought it was hilarious, even though it's really messed up and bad. It's still really you will wear. Yeah. Any
They're
other feedback, questions, comments, concerns?
Can't say anything for word choices because there was a bit that I missed, but I would say the storytelling and the flow and the characterization, the reactions, their mannerisms. I like it. You always know I usually compliment those same things, so it was good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know some word
Yeah.
changes that I need to make while I was writing, and I was like, yeah, that could be better. Could get a little bit better.
Yeah,
I know
we
some
we all kind of ad lib, don't we? I mean, there was many sentences that I reset or that I looked at them and paused for a second and went, "Yeah, that's not going to read well in a listening format. I'm gonna reword that in my right now." So we kind of all do that, I think.
Yeah. Well, it does kind of look like they have now removed my ability to share clips, until which time that I hawk out $35 a month, which I'm not going
Dang.
to do. Um, yeah,
Man, that's
definitely.
unfortunate.
Yeah, it used to be a nice $10 a month, and
Man,
then
inflation's a bitch.
I think it's more just more people are using this service, and so they're just like, okay, we'll hike up the prices. We know people are using it, and it's like, I
Well,
hate you. The part of the
that's exactly what
part of the
that's
appeal is.
exactly what creates inflation. That's how it works.
Mm,
People who own things and charging the prices deciding I'm going to charge more for reason A, B, and C.
Hey, I'm going to charge more in order to charge more.
yeah.
Hmm.
The nice thing is, though, at least like for what I need to do, it's I can do with the free version. So that's something that they give the services for free. It's just like a lot of extra stuff that they throw in the price. So
Yeah.
that's something at least.
So you can't do
Well,
those
darn.
clips anymore? Is that what it? Is that
No,
understand that you can't do those clips anymore?
uh, at least for right now, until they decide to change the terms. So the sausages clip is now
Ah.
not usable.
How tragic! How tragic! Oh, life has
No.
lost its meaning. You know which one he's talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You,
Daddy,
The
you were
Danny
there for
or
that?
whatever the character's name is. Sausages. Sausage. That one's always really funny.
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausages? Daddy, would you like some sausage?
This is the bit where I rage and scream. How was that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that works.
If you were going to use clips, which ones were you going to use for us?
Um, Probably be I can honestly just share my screen. Get ready for Streamception, everybody.
Let's go.
So this will be
Ooh.
mine.
That is definitely Streamception.
Let me see. I've got a bunch of guest ones. Probably comment from Albuquerque, for Axula, since I know you're a Breaking Bad fan. Either that
Wait,
or the
which one were you gonna use?
con man from Albuquerque, a Breaking Bad clip. Alternatively, it would be the
Talking
yes,
pillow.
yes, lady.
Oh,
And then for Valerian, it would be this one.
powerful leader, you mean?
Yeah.
As a despot of Antrim
Which one
calls
for
her, which
me?
is so funny to me. So
Yeah.
that's her new name from now on. Powerful leader.
Which one? Which one for me?
The Danny flying at the head of her Khalasar.
Oh, okay, cool.
I want you to use I have the talking pillow now for me from now on. It's just too good.
From Breaking Bad, I'll have to find that. But
It's probably one of the funniest jokes on the show.
Yeah, that's a funny
was-
one. I love
Yeah, it
that.
was that one scene where they were having a very emotionally heavy conversation, and Walt happened to be wearing a pink sweater, which makes it even funnier. And Skylar like is holding the pillow, and she brings the family in a round table and says, "All right, we need to discuss Walt's cancer." And when people try to cut in, she says, nope, nope, I'm holding the talking pillow. It's your turn when you hold it." And so, as things get more and more intense, eventually Walter just grabs it and then just looks at them and says, "I have the talking pillow now." It
I
is
love
so funny. That show is a treasure, dude.
I love that show. That show is one of my favorite shows.
Oh my god. I honestly really do think it's the greatest TV show ever made. I genuinely think like 100 years from now, people will revisit it and like comment on it like this is what America was like.
Yeah. The funny thing is, it's a period piece.
It is, yeah.
Where it's actually, I think it's like what 2006 or something like that. It's definitely not.
Yeah, the flip phones are very telling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I don't think it would actually work if you tried to do it in modern times. So I think that the flip phones are
No, yeah.
big part of why it's why the plot works so well.
It really does. I would a show like that would be far more complex and probably a lot darker in the modern day, and would probably be a lot more complicated due to our technologies. So, yeah, because
Mhm.
like these criminal organizations, they can't really communicate in traditional ways. They have to be creative with their communications. Like all those scenes where Gus breaks the phone in half and then throws it in the Los Pollos Hermanos dumpster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want that clip from now on. It's just, I think Raptor would agree. It's perfect. I have the
Yeah,
talking pillow.
I freaking love that show. That show is hilarious.
Well,
All right, well,
gents, I think I can actually make the next one since I've already presented the next chapter too. I just got to edit and fine tune it a little bit. So,
sounds great.
or next week, I mean. And then I already finished the chapter after that as well. I like to be being a little bit ahead is smart. That way you give yourself more of a perspective. Preferably you want to like have the whole book finished. That way you can come up here like Tarek did and just pretty much be perfect. Like no one ever has any criticisms. But I get excited, when I'm a few chapters in, I think I really want to share this with people and I really want feedback. So I'd say like a good healthy 4 or 5 chapters ahead is a really good place to be.
I concur with that. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we will consider all that are us done. Thank you guys so much
No!
for coming.
Done the prophecy.
What?
Are we not all
Children of
done?
done.
Are we not all done?
Why did Journey have to be done? Why couldn't it be like Milikauskas or something?
Interesting that you
It's
picked
funny.
my a variation of my name.
God, Don, I cannot wait for the Easter egg scene. It'll probably be like one of the Australians that's just in a passing conversation. who it's like, hey, welcome to the city, and like, welcome to downtown. Be careful over in that corner over there. It's like, oh, thank you so much. What's your name again? It's done. Ah, I guess you're done with this conversation then. Aha,
Whoa.
good joke there.
Uh,
It'll be an Easter egg. It'll be. I'm
that's
not even gonna tell you when it happens. It's just gonna happen.
that's hilarious.
Yep.
Hopefully, Valeri, you don't get too triggered when that happens.
I should probably put a character named Dunn in mine too.
Thing is, I'm writing the future, and as you can tell by my name choices, the names are purposefully wacky and wonky. So I got to be like creative with it somehow. It's got to be like half a name or something.
You could
There's
spell
only
it.
one character who has a traditional name in this story, and that's Luna, and that's for a reason.
You could spell it in some bizarre way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
With like H's and stuff. You can put in some H's and stuff.
Yeah, kind of like how I spelled moon. It was originally Moone, and then I realized, no, that's too on the nose. That's stupid. I changed it to Mune, and it's perfect. So it's like the perfect name for that character. Leilana Moon, and then, pronounced like moon, but spelled Mune. And then Brax. Brax is not a Brax, it's a Braks. So it's like a plural name, if you will.
If I saw Mune in writing, though, I would say Mune.
Yeah, that's probably if people ever ask me in the future once I'm published, how do you pronounce characters' names? I'm gonna literally tell them it's the future, however you think it's pronounced. I pronounce them the way I do, but you don't have to. You could say Marcan, or you could say whatever you want. You could say Tanik. You could say Sada, whatever you want. It's the future, and names change over history. We have names like Pluto and Socrates in the past, and now we have names like Matt and Chris and Joe. And so names change and evolve as time goes on. That's one of the details I liked about the Hunger Games. I really liked that detail specifically, that pretty much every character in the Hunger Games has a creative and interesting name because it's in the far future.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess we are. No.
We're finished.
I guess we are finished.
Close it off whenever you like.
All right, we'll call it there. Bye, guys.
Have a riot.
See ya.